You know, we have to bring them forward, so they pay attention, so I shut that door, they told me, you just don't be there, it would be there, every country, every point they go, so, what do you do? Oh, my Lord.
Wayne, would you make sure the front door is open so people can get in? Good evening. Today is Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. The time is now 6 p.m. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Williston City Council. Mrs. Wright, where are you?
She's not here.
She's not here. Okay, Mrs. Willis.
Yes,
Would you please do a roll call for us?
absolutely. Mayor Jerry Robinson.
Here.
President Charles Goodman.
I'm here.
Vice President Justin Hess.
Here.
Councilmember Deborah Jones. Councilmember Marguerite Robinson. Here. Councilmember Elihu Ross.
Here.
Interim City Manager Dennis Stroud.
Here.
City Attorney Fred Coberman.
Here.
City Clerk Patricia Wright, absent.
Thank you very much. If you would join us, we're now going to open this meeting with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States led by the mayor.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you have given us. Lord, we pray that you would just rid this land of this coronavirus and make everyone well. Lord, we pray that you would be with our police and our fire as they go about their business and protect them at all times. Be with our military men and women wherever they may be, protect and provide for them, Lord. We pray that you would be with this council tonight, Lord, that they would make the right decisions for the city of Williston. And God, we ask that you heal our land and bless the United States of America, and bless us with wisdom, with kindness, with gentleness, mercy, love, peace, and healing. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item number 1 is additions, deletions, changes of the agenda. I have had a request that we change item number 3 and put it ahead of item number 1, and I have accepted that request, so we will be going with item number 3 and then item number 2. Are there any other changes or deletions of the agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Let the record show that the agenda is approved unanimously. Item number 3. This will be our opportunity to swear in of a new Williston police officer by the mayor. Mayor Robinson, I give you the floor.
Thank you, sir. Come on down, Mike. Front and center. Okay, this is him. Okay, that's good.
Okay, see you later.
That's good. Give you a little bit, just, I mean a real little bit about this man right here. Mike is 49 years old, and he hails from Ocala. He started his career in 1990 with the Marion County Sheriff's Office as a corrections assistant. He retired last month, holding the rank of major, and was the director of the countywide drug task force. During his long and distinguished career, he held almost every position imaginable while at the Sheriff's Office. He is currently the exalted ruler of the Ocala Elks Lodge. During his career, Mike was a recipient of 43 certificates, plaques of appreciation, the 1997 Medal of Distinction. In 2002, Mike almost made the ultimate sacrifice and was shot 3 times while taking part of a drug search warrant as a member of the SWAT team. In recognition of his injuries, he received the Medal of Valor Award, the Purple Heart Medal. He was the 2003 Florida Retail Federation Officer of the Year, 2003 Florida Sheriff's Association Deputy Sheriff of the Year, 2003 Florida Attorney General Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, first-time recipient, and the 2003 National Deputy Sheriff of the Year Award. Now,
Really impressed.
I could go on, but I don't want to take all night here. They got stuff to do up here. So, let's get on with it. Are you sure you're ready for this?
I'm ready.
Yeah, if you want, bring it on. Okay, we're ready?
We're ready. Yeah.
It's a family affair.
That's good.
Yeah, sounds like a song.
Go.
Oh,
Wait a minute,
hold on.
wait. I gotta have a chief.
I have to say, manager. You mean the manager?
You're dragging your microphone, sir.
Now we gotta wait on the manager, the city manager.
You know,
Interim chief.
Okay. You ready? Raise your right hand. The other right. I, Mike Rose, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the constitutions of the United States of America and the state of Florida.
I do.
Repeat it.
You expected to repeat all that?
You gotta kind of break that up.
He was good, but.
I,
Mike Rose,
Mike Rose,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
and the ordinances of the city of Williston, Florida,
and the ordinances of the city of Williston, Florida,
and will well
and will well
and faithfully perform the duties imposed upon me
faithfully perform the duties imposed upon me
as a police officer of the city of Williston, Florida, to the best of my ability.
as a police officer
The city of
of
Williston.
the city of Williston to the best of my ability,
And that I will serve the United States of America,
that I will serve the United States of America,
the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
the city of Williston, Florida,
the city of Williston, Florida,
honestly and faithfully,
honestly and faithfully,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Welcome to Williston.
Thank you.
Feel like we did a speech. A few words.
Okay.
I'm not kissing you.
All right. Penny, don't bring blood. Don't carry it out.
All right, good deal.
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Thank you, officer.
I look forward to serving as a great citizen of Williston and as John City Council. We're looking forward to this new adventure and bringing great things and taking advantage of all opportunities that are available here to do whatever I can to help you continue to make this city be as great as it already is. So, thank you for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that was certainly the highlight of the evening.
I'm telling you.
Okay, item number 3, which was 2, this is the first of 2 times that you had the opportunity for public participation. If any member in the audience, or any member online, or any citizen online has something they would like to address to council, now is your first opportunity. Please step to the podium, speak into the microphone, and issue your name, sir.
Check. I'm Matt Crandall. Hello. This is my second time up here. About a year ago, I came to you. Let's try that again. I'll just hold it.
There you go.
I came to you to discuss putting a tiny house resort here in town
Yes, sir.
and a small coffee shop, which we've opened up. The tiny house property opened up 8 weeks ago, and it's doing famously really well. And the coffee shop opened up about 9 weeks ago, and it is also doing very well. So first off, thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity for doing business here in Williston. I'll try to keep this real brief. I was reached out to by the owners of the Old Winn-Dixie property back in July, early July. And I guess given the fact that I had already done a little bit of development in the city of Williston, they were interested in speaking to me concerning land and a potential opportunity to purchase land. I wanted to bring to your attention that I have started to work with them, and I'm within a 30-day due diligence period right now. It's funny because somebody came to the coffee shop today and didn't know my daughter was in there and said, hey, you know, the owner of this property is considering purchasing the Winn-Dixie property. That guy's crazy. He's talking to my daughter. And she's like, yeah, he is crazy. I guess considering is the key word. I know it comes with a lien associated with some things that were, you know, against code enforcement. And I want to reach out to the council, and I'm not exactly sure who can make this decision, but what I want to do is improve the property substantially. I want to make it into a multi-use facility, and that multi-use facility would be, let's just say it would be themed around tiny home development and tiny retail and entertainment and restaurants. And I want this to be, as I said, I think in the first presentation I did here, I said, I believe that we could create something that looks like the tiny house center of the Southeast, and people would come here specifically to see tiny structures and tiny living and tiny retail and tiny et cetera, et cetera. Right now, people drive all the way over here every weekend from Gainesville right now to stay at the tiny houses. Why? To stay at the tiny houses, just to be there. We're full every single weekend, every weekend. So far, 8 weeks, been full every single weekend. We've progressively opened more units each week, and each week they all fill up. This past weekend on Labor Day, we were completely full. So what I want to discuss with you really quickly is, this is a substantial development. This is more than I really thought of doing. My next step was to go to another small community and put another tiny house resort. This has been so successful that we're definitely interested in that. But this just kind of fell in front of me, and I said, you know, if I'm really serious about this community, then what better way than to improve the community? And I think that property speaks for itself. It looks horrendous. It's on 121, directly in front of your view as you drive in from Gainesville. And I believe I can make it beautiful. I think I can make it useful. I think I can bring employment, and I think I can bring revenue to this city. But I don't want to start out by being encumbered by a lien against the property, when what I'm going to do is take the first year of a 5-year plan and make it clean. Clean it up, make it beautiful. People drive by it, they'll say, well, that's pretty cool. That's a nice looking place. And then within 5 years, make it a complete multi-use facility. I have ideas, but right now it's a very raw plan, because I don't even know if the structures are going to be worth working with, or if I'm going to have to tear them down. During my due diligence, I'm obviously going to have a structural engineer go over and take a look at the structures themselves. I've already had roofing over there. I'll have to do, EPA, phase 1 and phase 2 studies. I want to commit to this, but I'd like to know from the city that there's an opportunity to have those liens vacated, because that's a substantial piece of money that I'd rather put into property. I don't know who handles it. I don't know how it's handled. We had a conversation 2 weeks ago for code enforcement. Yeah, so I brought this in front of code enforcement, basically to get as much time as possible so that I could make a commitment to the owners, because I wanted to secure the opportunity and make a commitment to the owners. I have done that, and now I'm in a 30-day due diligence period as of last Thursday. And I'd like to see if I can push forward, and I need your review on this. I wouldn't ask for it this way. Usually I would try to get myself onto the agenda, but in this particular case, I was unable to get myself on the agenda because this has been some short term for me, and I'm not here on the 22nd. My daughter's actually coming home from college, and I'll be back up in Atlanta for a couple of weeks, so I wanted to make sure I put it in front of you. I don't know what the process is, but I'd like to discuss it. I want to improve it, I want it to be beautiful, and I want it to be worthwhile for this community. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. All right.
Well, I just want to say that because it is not on our agenda, we cannot do any action on this.
Sure, I understand that.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I get, go ahead. Sorry.
Vice President Head.
Quick question, but as far as, if we could come to some form of agreement that was acceptable, what is your time frame for bringing the property into compliance?
Within the first year, it'll be completely cleaned up.
When you say cleaned up, or you said depending on what?
Depending on whether I have to tear the buildings down or whether I can reutilize the buildings. I would very much like to reutilize the buildings. I personally hate the idea of tearing things down like that. If it can be used, I want to use it.
Okay. Councilmember Jones?
I was just going to say that the next meeting was the 22nd, but you know that, obviously. We could put it on the agenda for the next meeting, whether it's here or not. You could call in.
I could absolutely
Is
do
that
that.
possible?
Yeah.
Is that in your 30-day time limit?
Yeah, that is, absolutely. That would work great. Zoom or whatever, go to meeting, whatever you want to do, that'd
So
be
are
great
you
as well.
proposing that we put it on the next agenda?
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
With action, discussion with possible action?
Yes, we're going to
Yes.
have to, give you the 30-day.
And I'm going to go on the record here. I thought you were out of your mind with those tiny homes. I just said, there ain't no way, this man is nuts. And I am thrilled to see that you have made a success out of it.
Well, I thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is there anybody else? Thank you. Aaron, nobody? Okay. Item 3
The other
is
three.
the other 3. This is the consent agenda. I will briefly read it, if my mouse will allow me. Consists of the minutes of August 18, 2020, regular council meeting. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, ratifying the mayor's extension of the state of emergency arising from the COVID-19 public health emergency. C, Resolution 2020-45, continuance of the current AFSCME General Employee Collective Union collective bargaining agreement with changes to the effective date, and an article accepting the 2% wage increase as budgeted by the staff and approved by the City Council. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Head, a second by Council Member, whatever his name is.
Ross.
Ross, thank you. Council Member Ross. Okay, item,
Okay.
yes. Did you want something?
I do. I want to make one comment.
Okay.
On number C, I'm not sure who made the collective bargaining, who typed it. Did they or did we? Anyway, when you start looking at it on page 10, not till you get till page 11, did I notice that it says step 2 with a Roman numeral 2? And if you back up to step 1, it's a number 1 instead of an I.
That is the existing contract that was voted on, so it's just an extension of that.
Well, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because when you go to step 3, there's an I and 2 1s.
And we can have that corrected. They do type that and submit that to the city.
And at one point, it says step 11, and it's really 2. So on page 10 and 11 are that they need to look at all the steps. Because there's about 4 places that I have circled. I did read it.
I think most of those.
I actually did.
Yeah.
Yeah, the discretion with those is the fact that they converted it from
An Adobe document to a
Adobe
Word
to
document.
Word,
Yep.
and it automatically makes.
It'll do that. Well, there are about 5 or 6 places,
Okay.
starting on page
We'll have
10.
that corrected in a,
I mean, you don't have to bring it back, it was approved, but I think they would probably want to correct it.
Yeah.
Only my comment.
That comment was so long, I forgot. Did we have a motion and a second?
Yes, we did.
Thank you. All those in favor with the changes as Councilmember Jones pointed out, would you accept that as part of the motion and the second?
Yes.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Let the record show the entire council present approved the consent agenda. Item number 4, old business. Item A, staff and board and councilor updates, and the city manager's update also.
Interim city manager.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure all of you, we've been trying to keep you updated. We've had continuous complaints about Waste Pro, the lack of the dumpsters being dumped. I was on the phone today. I made a quick trip through town and found several of them that was overflowing again. They called Trip and told we had to do something because it was kind of getting out of hand.
When I left home today, they had not dumped mine yet.
Well,
That's
they said
residential, and he's talking dumpsters.
Yeah.
dumpsters.
But that's, they didn't
I
pick up
understand.
residential.
We actually got an email today from the home office of Family Dollar, question about their garbage service and the size of the dumpsters, et cetera, et cetera. I've tried to keep most of you informed over the weekend. For some unknown reason, on North Main, right by the Monterey Boat area, we actually had a power line snap, and CJ couldn't find a reason for it, it just been broken too, so we were out of power for an hour and a half, 2 hours was inside the city. The city crew was absolutely awesome as always, restoring power. And the only other problem, and I don't know how we're gonna get around it, I was trying to get updates without bothering CJ because he was in bucket trucks and everything else, is it's almost impossible to get through with the police department because the city floods the communications center with phone calls about my power being out. And I thought, you know, we come up with a program a while back where you had a separate number to report power outages, and then about an hour and a half, 2 hours into it, they got the second round of calls, said, hey, is my power back on? I left and went to Gainesville, went to Ocala, and my mother's. I was just trying to see is the power back on before I come home. And it's kind of a, you know, we try to be friendly and take care of everybody in the city, but it's almost a, it's abusing the dispatchers who are trying to dispatch police and fire and medical emergencies and law enforcement emergencies to answer questions about power. And so we'll continue to try to work on figure out a way to better communicate with the public. Please don't call the police department with a power outage. That's all I have.
When we were discussing that, about having that separate number, my memory is that discussion just ceased.
No, we have a separate number.
Yeah.
We have a separate number.
Is it?
And after hours,
Nobody knows it.
if you report a power outage during normal business hours, it comes here. After normal business hours, that number is transferred to the communications center. But they
It is
call
a separate number,
It's
but
a
it
separate
is
number
transferred.
totally.
Okay.
So they call the 499 number, hey, our power's out, how long do you think it's gonna be out? We left because it was hot, and you know if the power's back on, you know, so, and again, I was able to get hold of Brooke, and we was able to put as much as we could on Facebook, to share the word that way. And it's just frustrating to our dispatchers to try to work through the law enforcement and medical needs they're trying to work through it and constantly be interrupted. We actually had one of the patrol officers in the communications center helping answer the phone lines. That's how busy it was.
We need to figure out how we can get the message out, because I don't know that number.
It's on the power bill, I believe.
Yeah, well, you have to find your power bill, or keep your power bill.
And maybe it's a re-education,
Yeah.
and probably what's happened is that for years, you called the police department.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, the
Exactly.
voice message you got at the city hall told you to call the police department. And, you know, as our call loads increase and like the fire calls increase, and it's overwhelming.
Maybe with the storms coming up, we should include maybe a separate slip, power outage, reminder number.
We can do that. I know that.
That way it's more noticeable rather than a small writing on your bill that people toss after they get.
Aren't there some municipalities that actually have telephone service that call out and say, we know that the power is out, you
One
can
of-
check the map and see if your power is out?
One of the problems you do,
County does have that one.
you have that, one of the problems is our communications center is a one-man band, or one-lady band, if you will. So you're dispatching fire, you're dispatching police, and you're trying to get a hold of CJ's crews to get them going, you know, and a lot of times CJ will, his crew will think, I need more than one person, so you have to make all these calls to respond to the incident at hand. And it's, we just got, it's a good idea to put it out with the storms coming. I know the last tropical storm hurricane that never came, we actually done a press release that, you know, this is what to expect, and should you experience power outages, please don't call the police department. We're aware there's going to be power outages, and we'll have crews on the scene. So that's something we need to work on and educate the public. The only other thing is that when I moved over to this interim position, John Gray from Williston Peanut contacted me and said that there had been a debacle with one of their bills, and he felt that he owed the city some money, or Williston Peanut did, and he was, wanted to make sure that the money was paid, and it had previously been waived. CJ, worked with him, I worked with him, and we recovered, from them that had been written off $36,000 this month.
Wonderful.
So CJ done a good job as always, and one thing I can say over here, this interim position, I'm very impressed with the staff over here. We're truly blessed with the staff that y'all have, and when I go back across the street very soon, because you're gonna hire somebody at night, I have a whole lot better respect for what goes on over here.
Can I go back to the power
Yes.
line? I didn't realize you were changing the subject there. Is it possible we could print a little magnet of some kind to put on a refrigerator or something that even says police, fire, power outage, and let them, you wouldn't have to mail them, could give them to like the meter reader to hand out to everybody?
We have one that we made up a while back, Lamar and I did, for police and fire.
We need something that has the power outage number so that people will keep it. That would be our suggestion.
They're actually somewhat expensive.
Well, even a postcard, even if it's not magnetic, maybe if we print a postcard, let the meter reader give it to everybody.
Well, I could put it in with the bill.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Put it
true.
with the bill, like I said,
Where
separate
does
sheet
the
of
bill come
paper.
from? The bill comes from another state, doesn't it?
Brenda, you look like you don't think that's gonna work.
She doesn't know where the bill comes from either.
I don't, because I can tell you just from working in the communications center, when I first started, it was, you called the police department for after hours.
Oh, yeah.
And then we changed it to the after hours hotline number, and it's just another phone in dispatch that they have to answer. They're already answering 7 lines, so now you want them to get up to answer another phone. So we have the secondary phone. And then if somebody calls out and does not get an answer because, one, they're on the telephone or dispatching out somebody else, that phone does have an answer machine, and it does say that if you do have a power outage, please leave your address and we will have somebody respond. So that helps, but again, people, if you don't pick up the telephone on the secondary phone, everybody's still gonna call the police department.
Yeah.
There's no way around them really calling.
We taught them well.
So, I mean, we can do
Yeah.
press releases, we can do education, we can do those type of things, but it's just they want to speak to somebody, I think is how it's gonna, and it's just difficult. I mean, you don't know when you're gonna have that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would imagine, I mean, it's very rare that the whole city goes out at one time. Usually it's a
We weren't
section
out.
or,
Northwest wasn't out.
okay.
It was weird. I don't know why.
But my question was on the recording, is somebody updating that?
yes, they know how to change the recording, so if they have a power outage, it says you've reached the Williston after hours, we are aware of the power outage and what section. We have utility crews en route. If you have any additional, or if you're not a part of that, leave a message. So we can hear it, we hear it, it's just, you know, when you're still dispatching and answering other telephone lines and we don't have a dedicated 911 line either. That's the other issue. So when we get a call from the sheriff's office for EMS or a 911 call, you're still answering the 7 other lines, trying to make sure that it's not an emergency and it's a power outage.
One of the things, and I'll take blame on it, when they first, I talked to CJ, he first anticipated like a 45-minute response before we had the power back up, and I made a mistake of giving the people a time frame. And once CJ got there, realized the problem when they actually couldn't figure out the bypass they had thought they could do, couldn't do, it got into a longer time period, and the people got frustrated. So it's like, how long is it gonna be out? So you try to tell them, but when it goes longer than that, then they're irritated, and, you know, you said it's gonna be back up now. And I think on top of it, CJ has some weather moving on.
Oh, yeah.
I will not be in a bucket truck in a thunderstorm. I'm not gonna in a bucket truck anyway. you know.
Well, it sounds like education, but I think we need to at some point incorporate some kind of either text message alerts or call out alerts. I mean, the school does it, everybody does it.
Yeah, one of the problems you run into, and we dealt with some of this on the phone text thing, is that how often people change phone numbers. You know,
Well, that'll be up to them.
but I mean, so you
Yeah,
send
back
down,
to the
you
list.
get some kickbacks. Well, you know, we need to figure out what we can do, and I guess because it's a bigger section of the city affected, you know, we're inundated with CJ's guys work magic, as always, and, done well.
Well, it's a good thing we have such a great city manager. I'm sure he'll come up with a solution.
Well, I hope y'all hire him. Because what you got now is not.
Okay. We will move to item 4, old business.
We are four B.
Yes, thank you, 4B. Ordinance number 2020-684, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Williston, Florida, providing for the permanent closing of all that portion of an easement as recorded in the official records book, page 312, page 103 of the public records of Levy County, Florida, finding that the closing of the easement will not adversely affect the public health and safety or welfare, finding that the closing of the easement is in the best interest of the city and for the general welfare of its citizens, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinance, providing for the severability, providing for the inclusion into the city code, and providing an effective date. City Planner Gorman.
Good evening, Council. This is the second reading. I went over this completely at first reading. Is this something you want me to go over again? If not, the only change in your packet is you'll see the easement that we are receiving for the fire hydrants that's at the north end of the property. So tonight you'll be for final reading to vacate the one easement and to accept the other agreement in there for the other easement on the north side.
Any member of the council have any questions for the city planner?
No. I move ordinance 2020-684 on second and final reading.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Councilmember Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Ordinance 2020-684 is approved. Second reading by the entire council.
Thank you.
And we move to 2020-685, second reading. This is on the same area, correct?
This one is...
This, I'm gonna read it.
2020-30.
Number 2020-685, second reading, an ordinance of the city of Williston.
Before that.
Wait a minute.
Pardon me.
C, it's C.
I have a rebellious mouse here. Resolution 2020-36, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, accepting a utility easement from Marlin and Kelly Hunter for purposes of a 20-foot wide utility easement to enable future utility improvements and routine operation and maintenance. City Planner Gorman.
Yes, sir, that's the easement on the north end of the property where we have a fire hydrant. We need an easement to go across it just to protect the city.
Any member of the council have any questions for the city planner?
No.
No.
Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve resolution 2020-36.
I have a motion by Councilmember Robinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Vice President Head. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Let the record show that all members of the council approved ordinance 2020-36. Now we will move to D, ordinance 2020-685, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Williston, Florida, amending Chapter 38, Traffic and Vehicle Section 38-31, establishment of fire lanes and no parking zones, parking prohibited, enforcement and penal ties to include the time limits on certain streets and in certain public parking lots, providing for an effective date. City Planner Gorman.
Yes, sir, this is second reading of the ordinance where we are, I've been working with the chief who has requested that we try and establish a 2-hour parking on certain streets and parking lots in the city. You asked that I bring you a map, which I have done, and it's in your packet, on page 37, to show just what areas that he intends to go forward in with the 2-hour parking signs, once this ordinance is adopted. And it's basically, runs on the other side of the post office. Well, I've already described it in here. It's, First Street between Noble and First Avenue, First Avenue, from First Street to Main, and Main Street from Fourth Avenue to First. So this little map here, where I drew the line, will show you what's being affected. And the whole idea is try and get people who are doing business downtown an area to park when they do the business, and hopefully encourage employees to park a little further away. And I'll let Chief Stroh or Interim City Manager Stroh add to this if he would.
Again, we talked about last time, we've gotten, myself and the mayor, the last several months, we've gotten numerous complaints from citizens who cannot park at the post office because of employees. And the employees of the post office are also parking on Northwest First Avenue, blocking, facility or the patrons from getting in and out of the beauty shop and slowing the traffic coming into the Ivy House. And then again, on Northwest Main, we have some parking areas that were made with the new park that some people made that their personal parking lots.
I have a question. Is this map part of the ordinance? Or are we opening the door to have wherever we deem it is?
This is not part of the ordinance. This is the area that the chief wanted to move forward with first on the 2-hour parking. If I put it as part of the ordinance, I felt like it would have locked it into just that area, and we didn't want to do that. So at this time, this is
So
just
how
really-
do we designate what area specifically we are talking about if it's not part of the ordinance?
You'll have signage.
The ordinance will show signage. The ordinance says that we'll have signs in certain areas of Williston that will allow 2-hour parking. And we've just made it to where we're doing the ordinance saying we're going to have 2-hour parking areas in the city. But we're telling you as council where this is going to start. Unless you want it as part of the ordinance.
I just am trying to get
Okay,
clarity.
yeah.
Councilmember Jones.
The far end of Northwest Main, way down the far end just before the split. When we originally built that parking lot, we built that parking lot as long-term parking. We told people they could park there and carpools against them.
Okay, then what we'll do, we're
So
gonna
can
post.
we stop before we get there?
We're gonna post
Yeah,
the
that's-
parking, and we will stop, I think it's right about 4th Street. We'll go 4th Street south.
Yeah, there and that, I can't tell that there's, yes, it is 4th. If you could stop at 4th, I think we would be fine. 4th
And
Avenue.
this is my concern, is that we have no clarity on
But
where
where
we're
we're
going to
gonna
stop.
put it will be designated with no parking signs. And then again, we can always remove them. I know that right now, I was speaking with the postmaster, and the lease actually for the post office had expired. And so they're not sure if they're gonna, stay there, or maybe try to build another building, or have somebody build a building and relocate. So should the post office move, then there might not be a need to continue to have it posted. And we can always
We've been
revisit
talking
that.
about that for 25 years. I'd love to see them do it.
And he kinda actually, the postmaster just showed up in October, so he's kinda behind the 8 ball on a lot of stuff. But it's just because of the increased staff of the post office, they all park around the post office, so our citizens can't park there. The lady across the street has a beauty shop. Her elderly customers are parking in front of City Hall, calling her, and she picks them up and brings them back to get their hair done.
Yeah.
And that's just not right.
acceptable.
So, this is the first step.
The only other comment I had, that if, for example, those ladies wanted to get their hair done, and they were gonna get a permanent and a haircut, it takes longer than 2 hours to do some of those things.
Wow.
I mean, really. It takes right at 2 hours. maybe 2 hours, 15 minutes to do
Well, they
it.
can't talk while they're getting it done.
Well, yeah, no,
Okay, let's move ahead.
Well, I'm saying 2 hours now.
City Planner Gorman.
Yes, the first I've heard of this was the ride sharing area. Why
Okay.
don't we
Yeah.
get it, have we no signage out there saying
There
this
used
is
to
for all?
be some there, maybe
There's-
I know,
there's
but
nothing there
signage
now.
up that says that, so people will move down
It
there.
used to be like a carpool.
Yeah, people
sign
used to use it a lot.
There used to be cars there a lot.
In front of a new U, down.
Right, exactly, which would be Millen Surveying now.
Right.
CJ.
The parking areas,
The parking areas in front of the Ivy House, and further along Main before it was redesigned and the sidewalks were put in, had 2-hour parking signs only, and the area that, Councilwoman Jones is speaking of did not have the signs down there.
Yeah, that's because we encourage people to park there and carpool.
Yes, and even in front of City Hall out here, before the berm was taken down, the parking lot was built, there were 2-hour parking signs there as well.
And the beauty shop is fairly new. I mean, so if somebody wanted to park in that area, I'm gonna say across from the post office, because I assume you're gonna put them there too.
Everything on, First Street coming off of Noble, and
Ave.
First Avenue coming back towards Northwest Main.
Right.
Okay.
They may need to be 3 hours instead of 2 hours. I don't think they need to be 4, but they may need to be longer than 2, or they're gonna have to be moving the car in between. Or they might have to move the car in between.
Okay.
No comment.
I have to find out where I am. That comment went so long. Where were we?
I pulled this out.
Item
for you.
Item D.
Saw it,
Item D.
still.
Yes, this is the one about the parking lots and the parking. Okay, so this is the second reading. Do I have a motion?
Well, have we agreed to stop at 4th instead of 5th?
Evidently, we had it approved on the first reading.
We did, but now's our chance to change
Okay.
it if we want to. Remember the first time they said, oh, don't worry about it, well, we have another chance?
I do.
Well, I read it, really did, and said, this is the first time I've seen a map.
You wanted a map to see what area was gonna be affected first. with the
Exactly, and that's
2-hour
why I'm
parking.
seeing it
Not
now,
part of
and
the
I'm
ordinance.
going, oh, we don't want that block.
But that's not in the ordinance.
It's
That
not part
is
of
not-
the.
I know, but I'm on agreement with whoever's gonna put the signs
Okay,
up.
so you want a personal agreement which has nothing to do with the ordinance,
Pretty
correct?
much. Well,
Okay, I just wanted to be
I mean, we
clear.
did agree with that, right?
Yeah,
Okay, making sure.
yeah. I have
Before I
concerns
know how I'm
also.
gonna vote on it.
I have concerns also, as I've
What are your concerns?
said. My concerns are that while our current police department will honor this, when you put it in the form of an ordinance, it has the ability to be used inappropriately.
I think we need to add the map to the ordinance. You can always amend the ordinance and add a new map.
That means the map will have to go in Unicode. We don't want that to happen.
No, I don't want.
If you're gonna do a map, you do the map by resolution. The ordinance is just allowing
Okay.
certain areas in the city to have 2-hour parking.
All right, so I guess.
So
the
we could do
resolution
this
is-
and then have a resolution at the next meeting
Where you're gonna have your
using
2 hours.
this map as the guideline.
Works for me.
That works for me.
Adding back something we already had, just in a little different spot.
Yes.
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 2020-685.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Head, a second by Councilmember Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Ordinance 2020-685 is approved on second reading by the council. And Ms. Brooks, you'll make sure that we have a resolution for the following council meeting. Ordinance 2020-687, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Williston, Florida, Chapter 6, Alcoholic Beverages, Section 6.2, Definitions, and Section 6.6, clarifying the sale of alcohol within 300 feet of a church, schools, and child care facility, providing severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. City Planner Gorman.
Yes, sir. Again, this is second reading. What we're trying to do is a little housekeeping on our existing alcohol ordinance to make it very clear as to your desire to allow beer and wine within 300 feet of a church, provided there is a restaurant associated with the serving of the beer and wine. It wasn't very clear, and I think we explained that when we got the application in for Serious Pizza. It was for a bar, and they were told they can't have a bar. They can have beer and wine, provided 51% is
Right.
non-alcoholic beverages is good. So we're just trying to make sure everybody, that we can defend everything that we do going forward, and that everybody understands what's allowed and what's not allowed.
It also helps with the billiard parlor issue.
Well, the billiard parlor was not within 300 foot of a church.
I didn't think there was any property not
That
within
had nothing
300
to do
feet of
with
a
the
church.
church.
The Shrove Pies, it might be, because
It
it's
had-
going right up there.
It had, I already measured
Maybe
that, it
350.
was a special exception.
But that
To allow-
failed anyway.
Failed anyway, and so this has to do with the 300 foot rule within a church. And we wanted to make sure, because the type of license that came from the beverage department for food, for a restaurant, what required like 2,400 square foot minimum. I mean, just buildings of the size that we really don't have a lot of here. So we could be more restrictive, and that's why if they came in with an alcohol license that was a COP2, I cannot sign it, because that's saying they can get rid of that restaurant and just have a bar. And we'd be in a lot of trouble. So we had to fix this to make it work, and we did that. That's what you're seeing.
This is excellent cleanup.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you caught it.
Okay, any other questions for City Planner Gorman? Do I have a motion for ordinance 2020-687?
I'll move on second and final reading.
Councilmember Jones, were you just correcting me, or were you making a motion?
No, you read the title, so I just.
Okay, that's fine. I don't care. That's,
I can say the whole thing if you want to.
please,
Whatever
why don't you
like.
go right
I
ahead?
move ordinance 2020-687 on second and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Vice President Head. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Let the record show the ordinance passed unanimously by the council.
Thank you.
Item 5, new business. Resolution 2020-49, a resolution of the City of Williston, Levy County, Florida, approving for the submission of an application for funding for hardening of the City Williston's Russell Pump Station and Acre Pump Station through the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Mitigation CDBG MIT program. Said application to be submitted to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for the funding allocated through the Rebuild of Florida General Infrastructure Program. Mr. Davis Wright.
Johnny Davis.
I know his name, but he put it down here as Dennis
You know, I
Davis.
thought he Mr. Wright. That is his name, Dennis.
Thank you. Dennis Davis with Wright Pierce here. If you remember, earlier this summer, we came before the City Council with an agenda item to upgrade and harden some of the facilities out at the wastewater treatment plant. At that point in time, I had mentioned that we would be coming back with a second request. This grant program, this special mitigation grant program, was broken up into a couple of phases. And so the second phase, we're able to upgrade two of the city's major pump stations, the Russell Pump Station and the Acre Pump Station. These pump stations are essentially identical in the way they look and function and everything. And so we're just here tonight to ask for approval to submit the CDBG application. There is no requirements for matching funds or anything on the city's behalf. So, we've been working with, Mr. Fred Fox on getting all the application documents ready, and, the grant application period ends on September 14th.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Davis?
I do.
Okay?
At that cost, what does it do? Is it all the utility functions, the pumps, everything?
It is everything.
That
I mean,
sounds
we're gonna redo the entire building, outside, inside, all new pumps, new electric. We really wanna put in some communication so that, you know, if we were in the middle of a storm, CJ was working out of here, he could communicate back to those pump stations, operate them remotely. We wanna have backup power, again, in case there's any type of storm. Backup power automatically kicks in, so. Again, this program, if you remember back, this CDBG program was developed after several storms hit, and it's taken a few years for them to wrap it all up, but they put, the government put, I think it was like $750 million available for funding through this, and so again, it's meant to make these facilities to be more resilient during storm events.
So when is it due?
It's due September 14th.
And I'll ask another off-the-wall question. Will it cover the doors at the police and fire station? You're laughing, they need.
Well, actually, no, I mean,
They need to be hardened.
I think we can look into that.
Have we
I
had
mean,
that?
Yeah, the CDBG, this was meant for various types of facilities, not just our utility facilities. So I think that's something that can be looked at.
I think it's worth it. You're laughing at me, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this.
Caught me by
Look
surprise.
hard, Dennis.
Okay.
They need new doors bad, and they need hardening also.
Well, this grant that we're going after now is, again, it's the second phase of this, but this CDBG grant itself is gonna be available for 3 years to come. They're gonna do it 3 times. So I think that's something that we can talk to Mr. Fox about.
And then they have better luck with a FEMA grant than, I don't know.
This is perfect for it.
Well, that's what they
So
need,
I think
really
we can
bad.
talk to him about that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Sorry to throw
No,
that
it's
in
okay.
there.
So we have a resolution before us, 2020-49. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve resolution 2020-49.
Second.
Vice President Head made the motion, seconded by Councilmember Robinson. All those in favor?
Jones.
Pardon me,
I know we sounded like, but it
You
was.
do.
It was me that
I
time.
thought that was you.
But you get to put the two female voices in.
I'm not getting that. Okay. Councilmember Jones seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Please let the record show that resolution 2020-49 was approved unanimously by the council. Item B. Presentation and resolution. Excuse me, I got a mint because I have a dry mouth. 2020-51, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving an agreement for the wholesale purchase and sale of electric energy capacity with the Florida Municipal Power Agency and providing an effective date. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Again, Dennis Davis with Ray Pierce. This item is brought before you to approve contracts for our electric power purchase. I don't know if the presentation's up there. If you can go to the second page of the presentation, power purchase facts. Okay, so just a quick reminder, the city is currently provided bulk power through Duke Energy. That contract was originally signed back in 2005, renewed in 2012 and 16, and we're basically at the end now of this contract, and we have to get a new contract. The city approved Ray Pierce and G.E. Warren, Jerry Warren, to move forward with an invitation to negotiate advertisement on July 7th of this year. So we have been working since that time to get here on schedule. Just a couple of bullet points along the way in the process. We started, as I just mentioned, on July 7th. 10 days later, we issued the invitation to negotiate. So we did a lot of work with Jerry, with CJ, and Chief Stroh to get to that point. On the 24th, about a week later, we received 3 submittals on the invitation to negotiate. Those came from our current power provider, Duke, Florida Power and Light, and then the Florida Municipal Power Agency, FMPA. As we looked at the 3 bids, or the 3 responses that we got, Duke was pretty quickly eliminated. We had known that, you know, if you remember back, we had received some unofficial quotes prior to this, and you know, Duke's wasn't in the ball game. They just weren't interested really in continuing. So we went to negotiations with FPL and FMPA. We worked through those negotiations, and on August 14th, 2020, we decided that the best path forward for the city was to move forward with FMPA as being the wholesale power provider. Next slide. The good news, I mean, this is, we should all be jumping up and down, and I think Jerry was out there in the hall doing a little dance a little bit earlier. But the good news on all of this is, you know, I get me back up. It's the information from all of the bids is confidential and proprietary information, so we can't share it out in public. But we wanted to be able to give the council, the citizens of Williston, some way of understanding that this is a good deal. So we came up here with these 2 facts, and the first one was, had the rates contained in the proposed FMPA contract been in effect over the previous 12-month period, the city and its residents would have saved $600,000. So that's 30%. That would have been split about half and half between the city and the residents. There are some fuel charges which get passed. When the city receives them, they pass them back to the residents who pay the electric bill, so that would have went directly to them. So $600,000 savings. Another way of looking at it is over the 7 years of the proposed deal, it's estimated that the FMPA contract will save the city and its residents about $3.864 million, or 28% when compared to the power supply rates currently paid by the city. So again, if we looked at, you know, going out the term of this deal, which is a 7-year deal, when we look at it at the end, it would save about almost $4 million for the residents and the city. So we do have with us today, Jerry Warren is with us again if there's any detailed questions. Mr. Chris Gowder is here also from FMPA, and if there's any questions for him. One final slide on the schedule, because we're not quite done yet. We got up here to, this is the schedule that we presented to you on July 7th. We got up to item number 5, the City Council approves and executes the power purchase agreement. We got there on schedule, as was proposed. The next thing that we have to do, though, we're not out of the fire yet. If you remember when we talked about it back in July, the importance of meeting our schedule on this. So if you remember, there's still one last phase that has to happen, and there's some work with Duke. You know, the Duke is still going to be part of this because we're transmitting electricity from FMPA over to the city via Duke's transmission system. So there's still some work that has to happen with Duke. I will say another piece of good news is that when we presented this to you last time, we thought that there was going to have to be an application for transmission that was going to take place that may cost the city an additional $20,000. It looks like right now that we're not going to get charged that and that the application won't necessarily happen. So we think we're good. We're not 100% out of the woods on that yet, but we think that we're going to be able to save that money also. So what we need today is approval of this first item, and we need to get the president to sign that, within the next day or so. Also, before the meeting today, I stopped by each person's desk and handed you all some revised language. There was a couple of iterations of text changes and whatnot. That document that I handed you was something that was supposed to have been in the agreement that was in your agenda package. We inadvertently missed that one, and so just showing you what that new language is going to be in the final agreement there.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Davis?
I have a couple. You go first.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm tired of you first. You go.
I didn't have a question.
Oh, you did?
I just have.
Why don't you
thank
ask your question?
Okay. On page 12, when it talks about check meters, I'm kind of looking both ways here. Are we going to have a check meter?
Absolutely.
Okay. It says if we decide to install one.
Yeah, there's already one out
They shall have the right to install, so we are going to do that.
CJ says,
Yes.
sorry.
Did you answer the question, because you don't have a microphone on?
There is already a primary meter out there at the station.
And that would be considered the check meter? It measures what comes in?
Yes.
Okay. My next question on page 18, about the general representation and warranties. Talk to me a little bit about pledging all the revenues from the utility system.
Jared, do you want to come up and?
That's kind of scary.
Well, you're not necessarily pledging all of them, but you're pledging enough to pay the bill.
It says all revenues of its utility system.
But basically, what you're doing is you're promising as a city-owned electric utility to implement sufficient rates to be able to pay all your O&M expenses.
To pay the bill. right.
Pay the bill.
Yeah.
That's what that says.
Once the bill's paid, you don't have to keep the rest of it, if there is any.
Right.
You're sure?
Your single largest O&M expense is purchase power.
Yep.
All right, because that's exactly what it says. I mean, it says Williston hereby pledges all revenues to its utility system, and they are encumbered and assigned to meet its payment obligations.
You probably need to read that a little differently. If you guys, let's say your annual bill for purchase power is $1 million.
Right.
And you set your rates to only give you $1,050,000. That $1 million, you're pledging to go pay for that purchase power bill. There's only $50,000 left, which is not enough to pay the rest of your O&M expenses. So all it's saying is that you're pledging all your O&M expenses to be sufficient to pay the purchase power bill, and it comes first.
You got that on the record, Brad? Okay. Just making sure, because we definitely use that for other things.
It's fairly common.
I know, but the way it was stated.
Okay.
And
Any other questions?
We did change the signature page to Mr. Goodman instead of the mayor.
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Anybody else?
Easiest power agreement I ever saw. Thank you, John.
Absolutely. Well, we paid a lot of money for it.
That's okay, I've been here when we try to do it ourselves.
Let's see.
President Goodman, I'd just
Yes.
say, I think that, while the city did pay, for our services in this, I think that, the work that, I don't want to toot my own horn, I really want to, point to Jerry, but, Jerry was instrumental in helping us get this done, and I think with the savings that's coming back to the city and to the residents, I think, it's, obviously it's, tenfold or more, 100-fold more than what we were paid to help with this.
Yes, it is. And I did recognize that.
I know.
Okay. So we have before us Resolution 2020-50. Do I have a motion?
I think 51. Yeah, 51. I don't know what happened to 50, but this
I
is
don't know
51.
either.
50's at the end.
I move resolution 2020-51.
51, thank you.
Regarding the wholesale purchase and sale of electricity.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Vice President Head. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Let the record show that Resolution 2020-51 is approved unanimously by the council. and for some reason 50 got out of sequence.
It may not be here yet. No, yeah, it's next. Oh, is it next?
Yeah, it's next.
Oh, so it is.
Resolution 2020-50, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving an agreement for network integration, transmission services and operations with Duke Energy Florida LLC, providing an effective date. I assume this is continuing on with the previous one.
It is, that's right. The first contract or agreement, of course, was with FMPA. There's actually two agreements as part of this that you'll have to sign, Mr. Goodman. One of them is for the transmission, the other one is for the operation and maintenance of the transmission system. But these are with Duke, and they're actually the exact contracts that you all have signed right now for your current transmission services. A couple of minor updates that we made with Mr. Coberlin and whatnot, but these need to be approved and so that we can actually get the power over here.
Does everybody understand this resolution? Yes. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
Make a motion, we approve resolution 2020-50.
I have a motion by Vice President Head. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Councilor Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any who are opposed signify the same. Let the record show all members of the council approved resolution 2020-50.
Can I ask one more question before they leave?
Is it about this resolution?
It has to do with the power.
You can ask a question, but this resolution is passed.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead.
That's why I waited till it was.
Go ahead.
Aren't you proud of me?
I am.
If it breaks down like it did the other day, yesterday, the day before, who comes to fix it, Duke? CJ.
Are we talking about the power pole that broke?
No, we're talking about the whole main service though, not the line that snapped, but if the whole leg goes down. Like
It depends on what portion and where it is.
I don't mean our transmission lines, I mean, what if the feed goes out or something, we
If
should
the
have.
feed goes out coming into Williston, that is Duke Energy because it's their transmission lines.
Okay, so Duke will be the one to come and help us fix it, if
Well, they won't help us, it's theirs.
it's on their side of the meter, it will, they'll be the one fixing it, right?
Correct, that is their
That's my
infrastructure.
He said they won't help us fix it, they will fix it.
Well, they will.
Correct.
That's my question, they're the ones who showed up.
It just adds a third layer to the thing.
Right.
Is really
For
what
the
it does.
transmission charge.
For $400,000, there's a third layer.
All right, we gotta get it here.
Okay.
I have one comment.
Yes, sir.
I would like to thank the gentleman that worked on this, all of you, for getting this done in a very timely manner and saving the citizens a lot of money. Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Record
wholeheartedly.
And just as I mentioned, in terms of keeping things on schedule, we do just need to make sure that we get all those executed, all three of the executed agreements, pretty quickly, because we've got to get those on their way so that we can keep things moving forward with,
Okay,
with
well,
management.
if the city clerk calls me, I assume she'll be back tomorrow?
No, she's out. Her email says she'll be back, today was the day she was off. It says she's on them now? It says she's got them, you can sign them now. There you go.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you already had them. Normally I have them here on my desk and I know they're here. You don't need to do it now? Okay.
Tomorrow's fine.
It'll be signed tonight.
Okay.
You can come to City Hall and get them tomorrow.
Thank you.
Item D, review of June 2020 financial report by Finance Director Stephen Bloom. I assume he's out there in Never Never Land? Aaron?
Yes, he is.
Like we have 2 months.
Hang on just a second, Stephen.
Yeah.
Okay, try it again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Thank you very much, Dennis.
Hang on, we got one more.
And
Thank you.
Click here.
Mr. Warren or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
I'm not sure which one's which.
All right, now try it again, Stephen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you need a microphone. Talk louder. Got a microphone for the speaker?
It's on the PA, yes.
Oh.
Go ahead and talk again, Steve.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. If not, please stop me and I can either talk louder or we can figure something else out. Tonight, I'm going to go through the June financials for you, and then next commission meeting, I will be there in person to go through the July financials with you. So I do have some slides. I don't see them on the screen. I'm not sure if you're able to put them on the screen. If not, I can just kind of, go through, some of the numbers briefly for you.
I think it timed out. They're trying to get it back.
Okay. Did you want me to wait, or did you want me to just kind of...
Give us a moment.
Sure.
If it doesn't happen within the next few minutes, we'll continue.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a visual aid of this, Stephen?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then you know where we are.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this is June, and then we'll do July at the next meeting. We're obviously getting pretty close to the end of the fiscal year. So I did kind of want to go through each of the funds for you. I think a lot of the stuff that you'll hear tonight, you've heard at your 2 budget workshops, but it is kind of worth going through it so you can kind of see some of the numbers and again, kind of re-emphasizes some of the stuff that we've already talked about. The first slide after the cover page is really just kind of an overview of your major funds, and then what I'll do from here is kind of go through each of the funds and walk you through where they are through June and kind of talk about some of the overview, the highlights, kind of the important issues that are going on with each of them. So if we start with the general fund, which is slide 3. Overall, the general fund is still doing pretty solid. There's a surplus right now of about $81,000. Again, a lot of that is because of your property taxes that are collected, through the first quarter of the year. So your property taxes are about 97% collected. And again, they collected up front, so throughout the year, you kind of use that up. Obviously, the good part of that is it gives you cash up front. So your cash flow for your general fund is solid. The drawback or the negative to that is obviously as you get through the tail months of the year, the last quarter, you're not going to be getting any more property taxes, and you'll kind of start to use up all of that surplus. But with that being right now, your total revenue is pretty much right on where you would expect to be for your budget. And then your expenses or your spending is a little bit under budget, about 72%, and again, 75% is where it would be if you were right on. So that's why when you look at that particular slide, the revenue is very close, and then your spending is actually favorable right now, and then again, that's why you have a surplus. So a couple of things to note with the general fund, and again, these things we've talked about. On the plus side, there's about $68,000 in delinquent property taxes that's been received by the city this year. And again, delinquent at this point means it's from property taxes that were unpaid from prior years. So that's a pretty significant amount to receive in one year. So that's a nice bonus. The city also received $10,000 from the county for the one fire vehicle. So that's already been received and it's within your numbers. Now on the downside, when you look at the bottom right in chart 2, you'll notice in the blue, the only department that is actually over their budget right now is the fire department. And it's at 93% of its budget through June. Wow. And again, we've talked about this through the workshops and through some other things, but this kind of is just a visual of it. 93%, in fact, through July, when I look at the July numbers as we're kind of tracking this, the fire department has actually now exceeded their entire annual budget just through July. So kind of looking at the next page for this on our, let's see, that's slide number 4. Again, we are tracking the incidents for you, and you can see in the chart on the right. So basically, and this is looking at it just from June year to date, meaning that you still would have July through September. So just through that, the fire department has responded to 1,586 fire incidents for the year. So when you compare that to 2019 through the same time period, it was 1,356 incidents. So that's a plus of about 230 incidents, or about 17%. So, that's kind of the number of incidents, but all of that, equates, each one of those fires equates to additional payroll that the city has spent. So that is why the fire department has, it's really exceeded their budget, and obviously will go well over their budget by the time we get to year end. So that's kind of, been one of the top things we talked about. This was just kind of a visual as to why that is. The other thing I just wanted to mention on the general fund, or two things actually. One is that as we talked about, some of the revenues from the state, and county is down, because of the pandemic. So we will see kind of how that finishes up at year end. But I did want to mention, I put it into the slide, is that we will have to do kind of a budget amendment at the end of the year for the general fund to kind of account for the shortage in the revenue, as well as the fire department. And then lastly, we'll, because of it, we'll have to obviously make an adjustment for the money that was put out for the animal shelter. And it's we just wanted to let everybody know up front now that there will have to be an amendment, and we will have to make adjustments for that. Okay, moving to slide 5, which is the airport. Again, we talked about the airport fund in terms of the shortfall in the revenue. Now, the good thing about the airport, and if you look at this, it's basically right now it's making a profit. It's about $7,300 is where it is through June. So even though there is a very significant shortfall in terms of revenue, because of the variable nature of the spending, which obviously means if you're not selling fuel, then you're not buying fuel, the airport is still able to manage the overall expenditures and expenses within there, and is still able to make, even though it's a small profit, is still able to make a profit. So, and you can see on there, I showed you basically, and then this is for the full year, because I know that we've talked about how the fuel sales have started to recover a little bit, but for when you look at year over year, just for, through June for the whole year, it's about 26% down from last year, and that's just fuel sales. So that's about $254,000 of fuel sales that, has basically gone away, when we would have to recover. All other revenue is only decreased by about 2.1%, which is that part of it is very good. And then the last point I wanted to make is the airport has not done any kind of capital projects or spending through June. It's been kind of a light year, at least for the airport in terms of that. Okay, next slide is the CRA fund. We don't spend a ton of time talking about the CRA fund at our meetings, but overall, the CRA fund is kind of doing as expected. The only thing and the only reason why there is showing a deficit for the year is that there was the property purchase that was about $100,000. Without that, the CRA fund would be showing a surplus for the year. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that the available reserves, for the CRA fund is about $322,000. We had talked about doing some of our workshops. CRA wanted to do some projects in the future and how some of that would be done. But that is kind of, that's the pot of money that they would be using in terms of being able to cover their projects. Overall, like I said, the CRAs did well and is doing well. I did want to mention that the revenue was actually above budget because we did get a little bit more from the county than we had expected, which was good. Okay, slide 7 is the utility fund. Overall, and again, we always talk about the concept of depreciation. So basically, without the depreciation, which I've recorded about $314,000 worth of depreciation, the utility fund would have generated or generates a surplus of about $140,000. Again, this is only through June, so that will go up. It'll go up for several reasons. Obviously, because of the utility billing is pretty high in July and August, as we know. So it's $140,000 is kind of the surplus, and that's really more cash that's been generated by the utility fund. When you go to the next slide, this is our slide that we always talk about how each of the services are doing. And then you can see the very first column there, electric, at the very bottom there in green is the only one that's favorable after, our transfers to the general fund and CIP fund. So that means electric has generated about $290,000, in terms of net income. And that's even higher when you take out depreciation. Of note, when you look at that, just kind of some positives, when you look at the water and sewer, and we've talked about this before, both of them are now favorable in terms of the operating income, which is the blue line there. In previous years, before some of the growth, before some of the rate changes, both of those services were severely in the red. So now sewer, you can see, is just above breaking even, but water is doing very well, and gas will continue to improve in the future, with some different things that are going on there. So all in all, the utility fund is still doing very well, and obviously, will continue to be a big piece of it will be electric. The next couple slides are really just kind of informational in terms of spending. I will keep tracking capital projects. There really hasn't been anything significant in terms of, from our last set of discussions. Capital spending is the same. This slide number 11 is I'm going to keep tracking the outstanding loans, and that includes our 2 bank loans that we have, as well as the interfund loans. And just as a reminder, when I say interfund loans, these are kind of the loans where, the utility fund has provided funds to the general fund to cover different things like the city hall purchase. And so basically it's important to maintain those balances as well so that everyone is aware of what's going on. So I'm going to keep this slide in here, and it's really more of a tracker than it is kind of a current set of financials. And that was all I had. That's kind of a top overview, and you can kind of take any questions or anything else you wanted to do.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bloom? I hear no questions, Mr. Bloom. We appreciate you keeping us updated.
Not a problem. Just a reminder, we will be having our 2 public hearings for our budget coming up, and you'll begin, obviously, agenda items for those, but just wanted to make sure I reminded everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great evening.
You too. Moving ahead, item E, discussion with possible action, Human Resource Director, heretofore called HR Director, position pay. This is something that I have asked to bring before the council, and I'm going to give you my opinion of a brief situation that we have come to. All of you know that Mrs. Willis has been doing our HR on a temporary basis. and I've had several conversations with her and the interim city manager, and I've even had Chief Brevard involved in this, because I was concerned about it would be an impediment to her duties otherwise. And I have come to understand from her and from everyone else, I have yet to hear anybody saying, oh no, this is too much, she can't do it. So if we can't find a reason for her not to do it, I would suggest that we could save $30,000 a year by making her the permanent HR. Has everyone received this letter from her?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In this letter, we asked her in the last meeting to come back to us. We wanted to know, do you want a salary position? Because currently, she works more hours than most people, and as a result, her pay is higher. And it would be punitive for her to lose the higher pay that she's doing, working more hours, so she has asked us to consider a salary. That means no matter how many hours it takes, I'm sure you've heard this before, no matter how many hours it takes, that's how many hours it takes. Okay. And she has asked that we consider a $9,000 increase, and she believes that she would be able to do all the duties of HR and continue with the duties, and I have heard no objection from the people that have her in their unit. Is there any objections?
I would say if it was anybody but Brooke. But
Yeah,
she's
well,
Wonder Woman.
I'm looking at her two supervisors here to make sure.
I'm good.
Okay, they're both good.
I have a question.
You have a question. Good.
I have no doubt but what Ms. Willis could do the job and do it effective. But if she were to suddenly leave for whatever reason, then where are we?
Then we would have to revisit it. This is specific to Mrs. Brooks and the capabilities that she has demonstrated, and if something should, Lord help us, something should happen to her, we would be in the same position as if something happened to CJ, in which the world would come to an end.
Yeah, to say that.
Well, we've had problems in the past with people who were bright, who could do a lot of things.
Yes.
And then they didn't work out too good.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no objection, and I don't want this to sound like I'm hunting something to complain about, but I just want to bring it before the council. What if? And if everybody's satisfied, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why, if you recall, we started this off on a temporary basis, because I also had those concerns, and I've had private conversations with those concerns. And, you know, we're strapped for money, and I have talked to several other people that have HR experience, and I was told that for a organization the size of Williston to have a full-time HR is very unusual. So based on those conversations, I said, I'm good with Vice President Head.
Those were my comments. I think when we were left kind of with HR hanging in the balance before, we were concerned, and it was not a knee-jerk reaction, but it was an overreaction to, I think, hire that out to a full-time position. I think now we've realized that we don't have to do that per se. If we have somebody capable of multitasking, I'm good with it.
Okay? Any other discussion?
I would just say if she did leave, but she better not, that we would just be no worse off than we are now. Or than we were before she came.
Right, I mean, just because
We don't have the same hole we
just
had
because
before.
she's gonna make more money than you could shake a stick at, doesn't mean the next person will.
Absolutely not.
I'm teasing you.
You're good.
Okay.
She's worth it.
So, this is a discussion with possible action. Do I have a motion to increase the position pay of Ms. Brooke Willis as Human Resource Director, making her a permanent Human Resource Director, not a interim, and increasing her position paid by $9,000, and it would be a salary. There would be no more overtime. But you will be working overtime.
One more chance to think about it.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice President Head, a second by Council Member Jones. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone who is opposed, I have to say it, I want to say be quiet, but, so.
Hold your own, right?
So we will, proceed along that path, and being the HR director, you will make sure that the appropriate salary changes are made, correct? Or the city manager you'll make sure it happens. Because he is known to be very, very guarded with his money. Okay. Item F, discussion with possible action, selection of a new city manager for the City of Williston Council. You have before you, I was not at the last meeting where you interviewed, but you have before you the special ballot. If everybody has their special ballot filled out, will you pass it this way? And you gotta make sure to sign your special ballot.
No, you ready to vote for two or what?
You want the special one, right?
He's getting taught.
There's the special one.
Okay.
Here's mine.
I was gonna pass it to you.
Yeah,
Let the interim city manager read the tabulation for us.
Oh, they pass it up again.
Thank you, sir. Interim city manager, will you please tell us who that recommends?
I don't like these at all.
No one asked you what you liked. I just want to know if you would be willing to read. What are you doing? That is public information, sir.
We took time and thought about it.
I'm just thankful that the press is not here to see that display.
I'm sure it's on video somewhere.
I was going to say, for your information, we all voted for him.
Is that a decline?
It's unanimous.
Obviously.
I'm hurt.
Okay, well, we got through that one fairly easily.
Yes, we did.
Okay, round two. Round two, in the event that the first ballot failed, we had to have a backup. And our backup ballots, if you would all pass them forward, we will give them to HR so that she can tabulate the choices that you have made and see where we are. Two. Thank you, sir. You should have given them to him.
This is the official
He
one.
stuck his back in there.
Okay, while she's tabulating this, I would like to move on, give her a few moments. We'll go to public participation. Is there any member of the public that has anything they would like to address the council with at this time? This is the second and the last time of this meeting.
Anyone online like to speak, unmute your mic and speak up. Nothing heard.
Ms. Brooks, when you're ready, will you please tell us what you've determined? In the meantime, we will continue to progress. Take your time. Item number 7, announcements.
Are you ready? She's ready.
Are you ready?
No, rocket science.
She's ready.
Okay. You have Mr. Andrew Hyatt received a total of 5 votes. Mr. James McCrowski received a total of 3. Mr. Bonner received 0, and Mr. James Wood received 2.
So you have 5, 3,
5, 3, 0, and 2.
and 2.
Yes, sir.
The 0 and 2 are history,
Yes, sir.
and you have 5.
Yes, sir.
And I would say at that point, if the council agrees, we enter into contract negotiations to see if we can hire Mr. Hyatt, because this is negotiations, and I'm not going any further. I did not vote for him because I'm concerned with the amount of money he wants. So we need to.
Some people obviously didn't vote for 2,
No, some people did not.
so.
I did not.
I can't undo their vote. They have the right to vote any way they want.
Okay.
So we have 5 votes for Mr. Hyatt, so now we need to enter into negotiations with Mr. Hyatt. My concern and what I heard, and feel free to correct me, I heard he was looking for in the neighborhood of $90,000 to $110,000.
No, that's not what he said.
Okay.
85 to 90, that is negotiable.
Yeah, this is what he said, 85 to 90.
Okay. I heard 90 and I went,
And it is a negotiation.
but it has to be a negotiation.
Well, now, if he doesn't take it, do we drop back to the next one?
If he doesn't take it, we drop back to the next one, yes, sir. That's why we have multiple candidates,
That's why people should have voted for 2 people.
whatever.
No, I wasn't gonna vote for 2 people.
Okay.
Because I've heard from.
So at this point, we need to determine how we're gonna go about the negotiations. I'm going to make a suggestion that the mayor and I enter into these negotiations and bring back what we gather with these negotiations to the council to see if the council will approve it. Anybody object to that?
I don't object, but we need to talk about the contract or the agreement.
Well, that's what, we need to make a contract to talk about a contract, and what I'm suggesting
No, we-
is the mayor and I meet with Mr. Hyatt, create the contract, and then the council comes back and approves it or doesn't.
Okay, well, at our second meeting that you weren't at,
Yes?
we received copies of last time's and the job description.
Yes, I have those.
And we were told to look over the current agreement, the one we had with Mr. Lippman,
Yes,
and pick out the things we wanted to change.
okay.
And bring that to tonight's meeting.
Notify the mayor, and we will include whatever they are if we deem it, or
You don't think we ought to decide as a group?
how are we going to do that?
Right
I don't,
here?
but you got
Right
5
here, right
people
now.
going to try to negotiate a contract?
No, we just all need to come to an agreement on the salary range, we need to come to an agreement on
Okay,
whether we
I've
want
I've
5
stated
or
my
4.
preference. If the council wishes to do otherwise, we need to have an assessment.
Well, I think we need to discuss it.
Well, that's what we're about to do.
Oh.
Is that all right with you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Didn't know what you meant by
Would the
that.
council prefer we stay here and negotiate this tonight amongst ourselves? If you do, say aye.
Not negotiate, Charles, but
That is
talk
exactly
about it.
what.
We were gonna
we can-
discuss the
We're just gonna
contract.
talk about the
Okay.
contract, the previous contract, and what we
That's
wanted.
what we said at that the second interviews, afterwards, we discussed that we were gonna
Discuss what we liked about the old
Okay.
contract and what we didn't like about the old contract, just to give y'all some guidance.
Okay. Wait, is that what the council as a whole would like to do?
Yes.
That's what we just, what I wanted to do.
Councilor Ross?
That's what we said we were gonna do. Exactly.
I guess so. Okay, so we have 4 people of the council would like to do that, I'm fine with that.
Just so y'all have an idea where to start.
I have a lot of ideas. I've been dealing with Mr. Lippman's contract for several years.
Okay, so here's your chance to tell us what you don't like about it.
Well, I will in due time. I want to hear from everybody else, and then I will tell you what I don't know,
And but I
don't
dropped
like.
everything on the ground. Sorry.
Well, may I
Councilor Ross?
I think it's kind of a hard discussion with these documents, because obviously we don't agree with all that's in them. So if you're saying one thing, and I'm saying something else, and Ms. Jones is saying something else, now we got a situation, well, who's gonna break the tie? Who's gonna come in and change it? do we want something put in, do we want something taken out? I think we need a valid contract to vote on first.
Okay?
And we get that, and then we've got a job description. And I don't think it's changed much, has it?
It really hasn't.
It was revised, and we were all in agreement with the
Yeah.
decision, yeah.
But I think a contract should be hammered out and then go, address him with what we want.
But the only way to hammer it out is right here, right now.
And that's what we're doing right now.
I mean, you can't do it any other time. Together, anyway. But, I mean, if you, for example, I mean, you could just look at it. Do you, for example, it has to take 4 votes to terminate the contract now? Do you want it to still be that?
No.
I've had that experience with that a couple of times.
There are options, and what I would have, if the mayor and I, what I would have put forward is that the big thing isn't the 4 votes. The big thing is the indefinite term of the contract. When you have a contract that has to be redone every 4 years, councils every 2 years, so within 4 years, there could be complete council turnover, you just simply don't renew the contract. And then it still offers the managers the protection of the 4-to-1 until such a time as his contract renewal comes. So it gives them, it's a balancing act, because in fact, as I'm sure you read through these hundreds of things, a number of perfectly good managers lost their position because the council changed.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes. But when you have a indefinite term of a contract, then the 4-to-1 becomes really important.
Okay,
But if
so
it
that's
is,
something you want in here.
that's
Well, we need-
what I would have
I'm in
pushed the
agreement.
mayor to include that.
Well, I'm in agreement with that.
And he
So
may have
there's-
said no.
So there's 2 voices.
Yeah, well, there's 2 voices. But the 4-to-1, I mean, this is a very difficult thing. I didn't like the 4-to-1, but what I liked even less was the fact that there was no end of the contract.
Okay.
Unless you had 4-to-1.
Right. It's bad when you have to elect a council member to get the guy going.
It is. So, you know, that's just one thing. That's the first thing that I was hoping to have changed, and I felt that I would be able to get that into a contract and present that contract to the council, but I still think that we can put all this in, and then we're gonna be renegotiating this contract again when we talk to him. Just because we put it out there doesn't mean he's going to accept it.
Well, that's why we need to give you a range.
Exactly.
We just need to give
Okay.
you an idea of what we wanted.
So are we just discussing that you're gonna give the mayor and I a range, or are we discussing how we're gonna write the
The
contract?
things we like, the things we don't like.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I mean, that's, and a
I'm fine with
range.
that.
No.
That's fine.
And I agree 100%. If we could come up with a termination, or not call it.
Not a termination.
Not even call it termination. Call it-
Contract renewal.
Okay, here we
period.
go. So we need to add a contract renewal. See, we got that already. Good.
Well, no, we didn't. That's just you and me. I didn't hear 5 voices there.
Would that come under term?
Yes, it did.
And renewal?
It was under term.
That's where you would put it. So does anybody else have that? What's wrong, Mr. Ross?
Beg pardon?
What's wrong, Mr. Ross?
Nothing wrong, I'm just listening.
Oh.
Do you agree with inserting that into the new version of a contract?
Well, I don't know, I'd like to look at it.
Okay.
I'd like to look at that.
You agree with allowing the mayor and I to put it in, and then you look at it and determine if it's acceptable?
I do,
Okay.
because there's no vote on that. We
There's
just
no
look
vote.
at it, and if enough of us think, well,
Okay.
we don't need that in there.
We just,
Take it out.
We just need to give them guidance as to what they can go talk to him
Well,
about.
that's what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what he's talking about.
Okay.
That's
Moving
what I was
on.
talking
Anybody
about.
else have anything else?
It's like it, when one person says it, but not the other.
Yes. Your Honor, do you have anything that you would like to see as
The VP.
Miss
Can
Vice
you,
President
first, I have a
Hill.
couple things. First
Yeah.
of all, my understanding that someone is going to contact Mr. Hyatt immediately and tell him that he was selected, and we're in the process of negotiating a proposal to offer him.
Correct.
And we'll see that final proposal or contract at the next meeting, before it is presented to him?
Before it's presented, we have to agree. Sure.
Okay.
Unless we settle on what it's gonna say right now tonight, then we have to have another meeting before we can give it to him.
What I thought we were doing was giving them guidance and letting them negotiate with him, and then bringing back what they thought it was, what the contract was.
I would tend to agree with that, because I think we need to move,
We do.
not rush, but move as quick as possible, and
It's not,
if we give you some general direction and you are able to negotiate numbers, because, for example, if you go to him and say, okay, you're gonna start with 3 weeks vacation, and then you can go to 4 weeks after 4 or 5 years, or whatever it may be, and then he comes back to you and says, well, no, I have to start with 4 weeks. I mean, those are things that you guys can negotiate and bring back to us.
That's right.
However, if you present to him this contract and it says we're gonna give him 14% into a 401K,
No.
once he's seen that, I don't wanna talk, and that, I think, is something we need to discuss now.
Exactly.
That number to me is,
Right.
that's one of my issues with this.
Mine
That's
too.
a huge number. So,
That's way, I don't, that's way.
So there's a few things that I have that, I don't know if you have, that's what, if we don't talk about it, I don't know.
That's what Councilor Jones would like to talk about.
So you wanna start? Well,
Sure, I
Mayor,
can.
go ahead. Yeah, the mayor, I did everybody get?
One moment.
Yep.
Mayor Robinson, do you feel like we can work on this together?
Sure.
Okay.
Do you wanna go over there and see him? Do you want him to come over here? You want me halfway?
Well, what we're talking about is
No, I know, but.
putting what they, but where it's here? In Tennessee?
Jacksonville.
Oh, okay, because I'm not going to Tennessee.
Yeah, he's from Ponte Vedra.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's up there.
I would be willing to do it either way. I don't have any particular feelings about it.
Well, I do have some stuff here.
I would think that he would want to come here.
And that, we can ask him to come.
Yeah. I think it sets a bad precedent for us to go there, but that's me. I'm looking for the contract, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Because we need to take some notes, obviously.
We do, I'm written all over mine.
I don't want to write all over mine, I just want very specific notes. Okay, first thing we're talking about is on the term. Item 1.1, the city hereby employs the city manager to an indefinite term to commence on the 13th day of December 2012, and that needs to say a 4-year,
Or 3 years, whatever you think.
well, I said 4 years because 2 council terms. I just picked a number.
That's a good one.
I would like to have 1 year, but that's not reasonable.
No.
Well,
So-
it commence on the day that he's hired.
Yes, it would, the date will change, I'm just talking about the term. It's 4-year,
You ought to put October 1st or something.
Mr. Copeland, is that called a sunset term?
No, sunset, it just automatically goes away.
Wouldn't necessarily be a sunset, just be expiration.
A 4-year expiration subject to renewal.
Yes.
4-year expiration. Subject to renewal.
Should we say October 1st?
Well, we can fill in the date when the hire is made.
Okay, right.
Okay, what was the other thing that people were concerned about?
Are you gonna do a year-to-year after the subject to renewal? Or are you gonna do a 2-year, or don't know? Probably ought to think about that.
I'm very clear, I don't need to think about it, this should be a 4-year renewal each time.
4-year each
Yeah.
time? Okay.
You don't wanna put these people, they're,
All right.
you know, these people are like the city manager there, they're very prima donna-ish.
Well, that's why I asked. I did not interpret what you said that way, so now
Yeah,
I know
yes.
exactly where you're coming
Okay.
from.
And it needs to be a 4-year limited contract, subject to renewal on 4 years.
And renewal for 4 years? That's my question.
I hear your question. I just thought it was self-explanatory. If you're renewing the contract, you would have the option of renewing it for 4 years or less. And they would have the option of accepting 4 years or less. And I would
I think
prefer.
he's gonna ask you that, so.
Well, if he does, then I would say it's 4 years, but if he doesn't, my feeling is, it's a renewal, it's a sunset contract. And at the end of 4 years, everything's negotiable. It doesn't matter, you know.
So we're
He
not
could
giving
say
him a
no.
renewal option, we're just
Yeah.
doing a 4-year contract. And
It's a 4-year contract with subject to renewal in 4 years. And what you're saying, do you wanna say it's every 4 years?
Subject to the end of, the end of, renewal at the end of 4 years.
At the end of 4 years.
Okay.
So we're definitely saying 4 years.
We're saying 4 years.
Okay, I don't want him coming back and say, well, how about making that 6?
Well, he might, we
He
could say
could,
yes or
he
no.
might do that. What we're saying here, this is a negotiating.
And he might- and he might
This
say
is not
three.
a,
And you
not
might
a
say 3,
concrete.
and we're giving them the ability to do that.
Now, I have a question about this. When you're saying every 4 years and subject to renewal, is that renewal for additional 4 years?
That's what I'm
That
asking.
is what Councilor Jones has been asking me, and my answer to her is what I'm saying, as I will tell you. The contract ends in 4 years.
Right.
In 4 years, you have the opportunity to renew it for another 4 years.
Okay.
You have the opportunity not to renew it at all.
That's fine.
If he wants
So
to
you
renew
do
it,
not
okay.
have to define what the renewal period is going to be.
It could be 2 or 1, right?
Okay.
Because I know he's gonna
It
ask.
could be, it could be, but
But-
then you don't have to define that
I know.
in a
He's gonna
contract that's
ask you
4
that,
years.
So I just want you to be prepared.
I am always prepared.
Yeah. Okay,
Except when I get angry, then I'm not prepared at all.
understood. I'm in the same boat.
Okay.
Well, sir, all right, I'm in.
Is there any other particular clause? I know we talked about several others.
Salary.
Well, as we work down, we get to,
If you go down the line,
Let's go down the line. We're good with everything on the first page?
everything else, yes, sir. Are we still good with it being 30 minutes away?
Where is that?
Bottom of page 2,
Oh, well, let's,
residents.
everybody's good with the duties?
Yes.
Is everybody good with 2, 3 criticisms, complaints, and suggestions? I thought they was perfectly appropriate.
yeah.
Anybody have any problems with that? Item 2.4, hours of work.
Yeah.
Seemed pretty straightforward. Anybody have any problem with that?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 2.5, residence. The manager agrees to maintain his primary residence within a 30-minute response time to the city throughout the life of this agreement. I have no problem with that.
I don't either.
I'd rather have him in the city,
I would
Yeah,
too.
well,
in the zip code,
the lack,
in the zip code.
you could rather, but there are not that many houses in the city. And as long as he
Find him
can,
one tomorrow.
as long as he can,
He doesn't have to buy it to get rid of it.
He's not going to sell his residence and move here. He's already made that.
yeah,
Well,
there,
he's not gonna commute from Palm Beach.
No, he's not.
No, but he's not, I doubt
So where
there's.
do you want him to rent?
within 30 minutes of the city. We have a vast area out there that is considered Williston that isn't in the city.
That's why I said this.
Many of them would like to be on the council and on various things that they're not exactly in the city, but they're Willistonians. So what I'm saying is, we don't want to limit him to having to dwell exactly within the city
No,
limits.
I said 32696. That's all the way to
I-
Marston, that's all halfway to Bronson.
Well, that's within 30 minutes of the city.
Oh, no, he could be in Gatesburg Palace.
Yeah, you could.
So do you want that?
Yeah, I don't care where the man lives as long as he can get to work in 30 minutes.
Okay.
But you ask. I mean, I think 30 minutes is a very reasonable period of time to be able to get to your work. Let's face it, here in the South, we are spoiled rotten.
We ask every.
Up north,
Yeah.
it's a 2-hour commute half the time just to get to your next door neighbor.
Down south?
And
Miami?
so,
Yeah.
you know, 30 minutes, I think, is a reasonable time.
We asked
Are we
everyone
able to agree on 30
We asked every one
minutes?
of them how long,
I agree.
when they were gonna move here.
Can you agree on 31 minutes? 30 minutes?
with 30 minutes.
Can you agree on 30 minutes?
I mean, I get
So-
it, I can too, but
Okay.
I don't like it.
Okay, I don't care if you like it, as long as you agree to it.
I do.
Okay. Resident, we'll move to compensation, salary. The city shall provide the manager with an initial salary in the sum of $70,000, and the manager will be eligible to all of those 2 increases, and then after that, it's supposed to be, any increases after that comes at a resolution of the council, which kind of got overlooked before. So, I don't like this at all. We need to hire the man at a specific amount, and it needs to be, raises are by resolution of the council, not this 2,500 at 3 on the thing, another 2,500 at 3, and then after that is by permanent resolution, the decision of the council. It should be by resolution, decision of the council all the way through. This is what we're hiring for, this is the amount, none of this piddle-paddle stuff. That's my opinion. Now, if somebody feels differently, let's talk about it. And once we determine that we're not doing that, then we'll determine the amount, the maximum amount that this council would like us to offer, and the minimum amount this council would like us to offer, so it gives us a nice, clear parameter.
I'm good with giving the base rate and doing a val at 6 months. And then another one a year after that. I don't like the based on .3 on the evaluation. I think it is something we just need to decide.
Okay.
Under resolution. Under resolution, I agree with that.
Okay, when you say, but when you bring this in 6 months, you get something? What happens in 6 months?
If we decide to get it.
Okay, so
On a 3.
we evaluate managers typically once a year.
Right. But we're gonna know in 6 months whether we like it or not. And if we start at a lower rate to get him here, not necessarily lower.
Let's get a legal counsel. He doesn't speak out very often.
You got his hand up? Okay. Sorry, Mr.
We need to make sure we don't get ahead of ourselves. The evaluation in the former city manager's context was that in order to see a staggered pay increase, we're going to get the evaluations in section 5.1, whether you want to do it annually, as you mentioned with other directors, semi-annually or some other frequency. I think 3.1, as far as from a legal sense, just need to know what you want to start the compensation at.
Yes, and the evaluations, tying the evaluations to a raise is dangerous territory. Because you may not want to hurt his feelings. You know, I mean, you may not. So you don't want to give him a lousy evaluation, but that doesn't mean you want to give him a raise. So, we're talking, who down there?
I just was gonna add, I don't mind seeing all this simplified. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know what the negotiations was back then, if it was needed to entice or whatever, but if we can just say, this is the starting salary, and it will be evaluated annually, move forward. And that starting
I
salary,
like that.
that starting salary to me would be, my number is 80,000, but I'm gonna say 77.5 to 85, that window, is what I'm saying.
I would like to see, yeah, my range was something like that.
Mine was
as well.
75 to 85. That was my range.
What's
I
the
was
matter
saying.
with you people?
78 to 80.
Well, let's go back for a second, not to rehash it, but we've been paying 75 for,
We have, and we've got a guy that
since
we
year
all
one of
voted.
this contract.
And
so
he
I
got
don't-
every single vote on this council, I think he's worth 75, he thinks so.
We said 75 to 85, I'm okay with that range, but you guys have some discrepancy on how we get there.
Okay, so can we all agree to offering 75 to 85?
Well, no.
No, good. Okay.
I think you should make the offer a number. not this to this.
Oh,
Yeah, the legal take the highest.
Yes, sir. What we're talking about doing is giving the mayor and myself authorization to start and to negotiate a higher rate if necessary.
If you want to.
So we
yeah.
don't, right, if we say 75,000, he says, great, I'll take it, then there's nothing else to talk about.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't,
He's not on the line, is he?
down knows our range.
I just
He
don't
could be
want to.
Can't you cut that off?
I'm hoping he's not on the line.
He could
What
be
is the
watching
matter
right
with you?
now.
I just don't.
This is union negotiations.
No, it's not.
You started. You see what you call
He's
it?
probably not there.
Yeah, he's watching.
I just won't want
He's
to see it
watching.
start off saying 75 to 85.
It doesn't matter when I'm gonna
85.
start off, because according to Aaron, he's listening to every word, he knows you guys have got me.
He doesn't.
I know,
He
that's
didn't
fine.
say that. He said he didn't know.
Well,
Go ahead.
it could be negotiated with the other terms that we're gonna talk about.
Yes.
There's allowance for a vehicle, there's other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
And he
We'll get
may
to
want
that.
a more retirement than he does money, so who knows?
The mayor has been historically quiet. I would like to hear from him.
I would not start less than 80,000.
Okay.
I have a suggestion that you start at 77.5, then in 6 months, give him an evaluation and increase it to 2,500. and
If
then-
you warrant it.
And then, after that, any evaluation, salary or otherwise, be conducted a year from that date, annually.
You're saying 77.5, 6 months later,
2,500 to 80,000.
and then go yearly.
Then go annually after that for performance and salary evaluation.
That's still between the
Combined.
75 and 85, I'm good with that.
You don't want to start at 75, I'm telling you.
Well, it's up to y'all, y'all can move right on if you
You
want to.
don't want to start at 75.
Well, Mayor and I are notorious arguers, so we can argue that point as long as we get a range.
I mean, that's my.
Do you agree with that range?
As long as you don't hold it, but the man's still saying no.
Well, if the man says I want $90,000,
No, I didn't
okay,
say
thank you
that.
very much,
That's the way
I
I
really
wrote it,
appreciate
what I
talking to
did.
you. Okay, so do we agree on that range? A real simple question.
Which
Up
range
ahead.
was that?
75, 85?
75 to 85.
I agree, yeah.
And I will be holding tight for 75, and the mayor and I will come to blows on 85.
It'll never happen.
Okay.
I think 80's about where you're gonna end up.
Yeah.
Okay, now, we talked about the actual salary, now let's get this down about this idea of 6 months.
Leave all that out and go to the salary adjustment.
Just leave that out if you're going to give him a number and
Yeah.
not going to evaluate
Okay,
him in
I
6
don't,
months.
Just
Leave
leave
it
all
out.
that out.
because I believe that you will evaluate him, and if you evaluate the man and you find out that he's worth more, you're gonna be willing to give him more. And you don't need to put that in the preliminary contract.
Right.
So are you going to do it on an annual basis?
Just like always, that we will get down to that, there is a evaluation of the city clerk.
I'm talking about this portion of the contract and all this.
Give me
crap
a
up here.
page and a number, sir.
Take out that top paragraph.
This right here, the second page.
It'd be actually
Third
the
page.
third page.
Okay.
Third page, all that stuff up there.
Retirement benefit is on my
No,
third page,
no.
is that yours?
No,
Eligible for an increase.
there you go.
All that crap.
Yeah, all that's going away.
Take all that out.
Okay.
All right, good, that's,
And the manager will be, take that out on the page in front of that.
Salary adjustments. During the term, the council may at his discretion,
Wait a minute, I think we need that next paragraph.
which one?
The manager's annual salary shall be paid to the manager in equal
Yes.
installments. We need that one still.
Well, sure. I just crossed it out because you said you wanted it gone.
Well, that's what I
It's
did.
just, I mean, everybody gets paid in equal
I want
installments.
this one gone, but I want this one left.
Okay,
You
cool.
crossed out both of them.
I did. How, you peeking at my paper?
Well, I'm looking that way.
Don't be peeking at my paper. Okay, salary adjustments. This is what we just finished talking about. We don't need the salary adjustments in the preliminary contract at all, correct?
Let me read it. Oh, sure. If at any time during the term of the agreement we decide to give him more, we could.
You can. You don't need that salary adjustment paragraph.
We may need to leave it there if we decide to do that. Doesn't hurt to leave it there.
Now, you come to 5, performance evaluation.
We're still on 3-2.
No, I know that, I'm just saying, if you wanted to give him more money, come to performance evaluation.
Yeah,
Which would tie
because
in-
this
Which would tie in with salary under
3-3 is
5.
also about, it very clearly points out the sick, the personal, the holiday, and the vacation.
So you're gonna leave the salary adjustment paragraph out altogether too, is that what you're saying?
I would.
Yes,
Okay.
3.2.
it goes without, this is the
It's
thing.
gone.
It goes without saying.
It's gone.
You can review someone's salary, ask Ms. Brooks there, and you can give a raise anytime you want.
This is where your council resolution language is.
Yes.
You don't wanna take that out.
Which one are you talking about?
3-2.
3-2.
You gotta add that somewhere else if you're gonna take it out there. Such adjustments, if any, shall be made pursuant to a lawful council resolution. So if you wanna keep that in, you've got to leave part of that there.
Okay, let's just talk about that for a minute. If there is no paragraph 3-2, then if there is going to be a salary adjustment, the only legal way that can happen is a resolution. Doesn't mean it can't exist.
But I think it needs to be in here somewhere.
I know.
Even if you go back to this page that says about well, not this page, but the other page where
You
you're
can
talking
tie
about.
that into the performance
evaluation.
Yes,
evaluation.
you can do that.
Okay, so
Let's get rid of this.
So that saves that language to move over there.
Save which portion of that whole language, that whole paragraph?
The part that talks about having to have a resolution to give it a
You
raise.
can tie that in and put it under 5, under performance
That's what I'm
evaluation.
saying. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Scratch
100%.
What number?
We just need to save the
What
language and
number?
move it over there.
It's 5.
5.1.
What she's really
5.1.
saying is what happened before. Basically,
Right.
if this right here states, the only salary adjustment will be done by a
Council
resolution.
Yes.
We just
So
need to
take
add
that sentence and add it in 5.1, where
Right.
it says we're gonna
I
evaluate.
got no
and
problem
put
with
the
that.
Salary, and then,
Just move that sentence.
Okay, are we ready to move forward then?
Please.
Yep.
Okay. Item 3.6, retirement benefits.
No, 3.3.
Right, paid leave.
Paid leave, vacation,
Thank
sick.
you. Okay, I thought page 3.3 was just pretty straightforward, because that's the same thing every other employee did.
Yeah, but you're dealing with a person under contract here, which is not the same as negotiation of, say, union or as an employee here. I would suggest I don't know what it is, to be honest with you, but I would suggest vacation.
Well-
2 weeks the first year, 3 weeks the third year, 4 weeks the fifth year, and thereafter. That's just me.
And no paid holidays? No Christmas
Yeah,
off?
of course it
Well,
got
no,
to
I
pay
mean,
holidays.
oh, that's relevant.
Brooke, if a new employee comes in.
HR.
Get anything.
I got it right here.
Vacation.
Vacation time.
Or they have to accrue it first.
They accrue it first.
Yeah, I think we should give them at least.
But what they accrue is 2 weeks for the first 3 years,
Yes.
and then we add 2 days for the next 2 years, and then 2 days. And then, or, sorry, then a day, anyway, it would take up to 8 years to get to 3 weeks of vacation for a general employee.
It says here, the manager is hereby granted the same sick personnel leave benefits as authorized by council policies for employees.
I agree with what you're saying.
And there is a list of those paid holidays, and I submit to you that if you look at that list, it's more than 3 weeks.
It's the
It's like 12 days or something like
It's the
that.
accrual of vacation hours that I'm.
Plus, they get paid holidays.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you
Everybody
is,
gets those.
someone of this caliber, when they come in here,
Manager,
you need, I would suggest that we can leave this in here, but you two, to me, have the power to negotiate. If this man says he wants 3 weeks vacation, or he's not coming, then you need to discuss that. I'm not going, in my 20 years now in banking, I'm not going anywhere for 2 weeks vacation.
Right, exactly, right.
Sorry.
He's a salaried employee.
In my 50 years in construction, I was thankful to get a day off.
And
Took off
HR
seasonal.
has said you don't give anything initially, you have to accrue it in order to have any.
Okay.
So, like we're coming up on the holidays, you won't have any vacation to take.
So I would suggest that we can compromise here and say we start with 2 weeks vacation, And then after that, if cumulative vacation will be based upon the city's policies, which is very strongly outlined.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I don't agree with that.
I don't think giving two and then let him accrue.
No.
Okay.
I think it's on the, probably as of October 1st of every year. Give it to him right up front.
What, another week every October?
However much we decide to give him, whether it's 2 weeks.
Well, I'm easy with
3
that,
weeks.
none. Did you ask?
I think we should start him out at 3 weeks. I mean, he's a city manager, for God's sake.
I don't want him gone all the time, but I do want to give him good benefits.
Well, we're giving him a good salary
Well, we're
already.
gonna review the contract in 4 years, or renew it.
Right.
So, I would suggest that we give him 3 weeks vacation, and he accrues sick leave at the current rate on the general employee
I
schedule.
agree.
And then
Sick
4,
leave, it's separate.
yeah,
It is,
you get
Yeah,
additional
sick
sick.
leave, holidays, you just took the man out of work for 2 months.
We need to change to a paid time off system. Somebody throw something at me quick.
Okay, this is where we are. This is where we are. How many people want to offer this man needlessly, let me rephrase that. How many people want to offer this gentleman 3 weeks paid vacation?
For how long?
Every year.
Every year till
Every
his
year.
4-year contract's
4
up, and then we
years,
can renegotiate it.
Right, plus holidays.
Is there
and sick time.
is there any increase after a certain number of years?
Not under this question. If that would be a separate question.
No.
For me, it's a
I don't agree.
Okay,
But
that's fine.
listen, all I'm saying with that is, in 4 years, we gotta rewrite the contract anyway.
And he'll-
We
and he
go to
won't-
4
Or
weeks
you
in.
can just say, we want to renew your contract, and you don't have to rewrite anything as long as everybody is in agreement.
Okay, so you're saying 3 weeks vacation for the 4 years?
First 4 years.
That's right.
Okay.
Plus
Plus
holidays.
I'll buy that.
Plus
Okay.
holidays, plus
Let's
sick
move.
leave.
I'm saying 2, and I'm
No.
getting outvoted.
3.
So I can live
Right.
with
3, sick, and holidays.
Write it down quick.
And he's gonna ask you for 4 when you get
3
there.
weeks plus holidays.
3 weeks, plus holidays, plus paid sick
Plus
leave,
accrued sick
plus,
leave. At whatever rate.
no,
it's on.
now wait, you can't have it both ways. You can't have accrued and
You
have
can
it
have
set.
accrued sick days.
You can have accrued sick leave.
Accrued sick days, but not vacation.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Who's that?
3 weeks, holidays, accrued sick days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Done,
At
next,
the regular,
next,
at the regular.
next.
Yes.
Don't say that to me. I'm gonna be throwing something at you.
No, we're not going violent here. He's difficult, but we love it.
We're never gonna make it a 10 PM
So we've
if we
got
hurry.
salary adjustments, paid leave, vacation. Next thing, benefits in general, unless expressly provided otherwise, same benefits. You know, I don't know what the point of this is,
Sounds good.
I'm good with this one.
okay? Insurance and health. Are we, let's talk about this insurance and health. It says pay premiums for health, hospitalization, vision, dental, and comprehensive medical insurance. Is that what we're giving all of our employees?
No, but it's what
I didn't think so.
It's what we gave our last 3 city managers, though.
Yeah, we're,
The last 3 city managers.
Yes, I can hear you.
okay. All that we're giving our new employees is the city paid benefits is your health insurance, the contributions to the retirement, obviously.
Yes.
The $15,000 life insurance policy,
Okay,
And the gap.
and the gap, thank you,
and the gap.
and the gap, that's what we pay for. So any supplementals of your vision and your dental are paid by the employee.
And how much do they run? I don't know.
It depends on the policy you
If
get.
you do it for the individual, it's anywhere between $3 to
So let's give it to him.
$8.
$3 to $8. Let's give it to him.
What is hospitalization and what is comprehensive medical?
The hospitalization compensation is that gap policy, that's like, we pay for the employees anyway, I think it's like $5.53.
So
And
just
that's
give it
just
to
the
him.
gap
That's
that
good.
covers,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
So
Exactly the
we're
way-
giving him $20 a month here, so.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm okay.
So 35 is fine?
33.5 is fine.
Okay. 3.6, retirement benefit. Are we giving our employees 14%
No.
retirement
What do they
benefit?
say? I think around 10 though.
Well, we're on a defined contribution, so it is
Specifically for the manager.
And 5% of ours, so it's 10.
I can't hear the one voice at a time, please. CJ, are we giving our employees 14%?
We are not.
Oh,
We,
Please, let CJ answer.
I already
Please,
answered.
please. I'm
The
asking CJ.
general employees contribute 5% of their pay starting day one. The city contributes X number of dollars, percentage of the employee's pay, but we do not get that until you reach full retirement age, and you're not guaranteed that percentage. You have a multiplier. They multiply 2.25 times your years of service, and that's a percentage of 80% that you get.
Okay, so that's a fairly,
If Mr. Bloom was here, he could tell us exactly, but I'm on the pension committee. I
Uh-huh.
know you don't want to hear from me.
it's not that, I don't want you interrupting someone else when I'm asking them a question, that's all.
But I said
It's just
before
a
you
matter of
asked him the
courtesy.
question.
Mr. Bloom is here, would you like to hear
Is
from
he
him?
still there? Yes, I would.
Just a minute, Stephen.
I think it's between 10 and 12% is our contribution.
Is our contribution?
It's supposed to be only 5.
The city contribution varies year to year.
Yes.
And it depends on whatever is
It's between 10
budgeted,
and
but that is
12%.
not necessarily what the employee gets.
Right.
It
But the
can be on
employee's
the
only
deal.
5.
Is Mr. Bloom on the phone? Or he went to bed?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, we can hear you, go ahead.
Okay, so, what CJ said is absolutely correct. Okay.
So what is our contribution, Stephen?
Right now, the city has only been putting 2% into the,
Oh, that's right, because we backed off of it. But what is it normally? We got so far ahead, so we backed it down to 2. I do remember seeing that in the budget.
the only thing yeah, it's been between 7 and 9%.
But what type of instrument is that?
Florida Legal City.
Right. That's not what we're talking about right here, right?
No.
We're talking about like a defined, like a 401K or something for the manager alone?
Can you explain to us what kind of retirement plan Mr. Lippman had?
Are you still with us, Mr. Bloom?
Yeah. Yes, he was with, Lincoln Services. It was a defined plan.
So we had a defined benefit plan that we put the money into.
So for every dollar that he made, the city contributed the 14% into that plan.
That's large.
That's way large.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes,
we're mulling that over. So he didn't contribute anything that we know, or wasn't required
Hello?
to contribute anything.
Stephen, we're.
Not according to this
We can
contract.
hear you, Stephen, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, the only thing I would both mention and for the council to keep in mind, a lot of these city managers are already with like FRS,
Okay.
Florida Retirement System, so a lot of times they'll want to be put back into that particular plan instead of doing maybe a pension plan where they might not, be able to be there long enough to get that benefit. So that's just something for you to keep in mind as you're thinking about this.
I'm looking for input, people.
I think 8 to 10 would be plenty.
I think you might want to talk to him and find out if he already has an existing plan, and if so, what his normal rate was, or whatever. But
I know,
if
but
you give us a number,
FRS may be really high. I know the fire department is.
I don't think we should go over 10.
Me either.
No.
That's what I'm saying. I'd do 8 to 10. Because 8 would be more like what we're doing for the employees now.
So you were authorizing the mayor and I to negotiate up to 10% of his salary in a retirement plan. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Works
what I
for
heard.
me. and whatever retirement plan he currently has.
Whatever,
And
up to
if-
10%.
And if he has to put in 15%, he needs to put in the rest.
Okay?
Yeah, we're not gonna go there.
Vehicle allowance.
$300 a month.
I agree.
Who said that? You must work in a bank.
Yeah, but I don't get a vehicle out.
And we've gone both ways before, we bought them a car and let them, and we paid for the car. And then with the very first city manager we ever had, we actually bought them a vehicle, I think the fire department's still driving it.
A Prius?
The Candace, no, it was
It's
an SUV.
I'd rather give them an allowance and let them deal with insurance.
So everybody's okay with this $250 a month?
No.
300, I heard 300 down there.
Oh, man.
All right,
It's
so
killing me here.
So arrange 250 to 300.
Well, on a good note.
How much do we give you for your car allowance?
On a good note, you've saved $30,000 through your HR position tonight, so you've got a little wiggle room here.
Good point.
We need that for the doors on the fire room.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Negotiate between $250 and $300 a month.
Okay, 250 minimum.
Start with 250 if you have to have 300.
Minimum. Well, the man knows everything we said, because Aaron won't have
Is he really-
technical
is he really
difficulties. He has no way to know that.
You don't know who on YouTube.
He can watch it on YouTube tomorrow. I can tell you, my wife has watched a few of them, and then she said, I'm not watching you anymore. So we're okay with 250 to 300, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Item 3.8, bonds and indemnification. This is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
4,
3.9.
I'm good.
It's good.
Good.
professional dues and subscriptions, everybody's good with that?
Uh-huh.
3.9, pretty straightforward. 4.1 is personal, professional dues and
On
subscriptions.
4.2, do you think we should put a cap?
I don't know how you can put a cap unless you put a cap on the, whatever meetings he's gonna go to. Say you can go to this one, but you can't go to this one.
Exactly. Well, we can allocate
Don't we
$2,500
have-
or something.
HR, don't we have a reimbursement schedule for expenses? When I have had to go to take the various, before the League of Cities, they reimbursed your travel expenses and your hotels. That's all in the HR manual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it has that.
Finance is raising their hand.
Yes. Hi. Yes.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, we do reimburse.
Yes.
And that's what it says right here.
Or
Do you want
to
to
get
get
a city credit card.
He's
Please, I can only hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we can give him a city credit card?
Closer.
Like Mr. Whitman, can I get to talk louder?
Closer.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we can give him a city credit card, like Mr. Whitman had, or we can do a reimbursement where he can pay for everything himself up front, and then we will reimburse him as long as whomever is approving the city manager's invoices.
Yeah, see, that's not my
Which
point.
would probably be you or Mr. Heck, or Councilman Heck.
Okay, but it says in that, the manager will include annually in the budget for adoption all anticipated professional development and related expenses to best information possible. So we're gonna approve it.
What if the ICMA conference is in Reno, Nevada?
Well, I hope he has a girl who's good with graphs.
Well, I think
Well,
council should go
if
with
that's
it.
right here, he can go.
Yeah, that's right.
I agree.
Council should go with
Yeah.
them.
Don't you want to put a cap on
Put
it?
a vowel limit on it.
Annually, we're gonna
Just
approve the
gonna put
budget.
it- You're just gonna put it in
It
the
is
budget.
approved in the budget, just so you know, there is a
I think it's got
travel
2,500.
and per diem, yeah,
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, there is a number there.
yeah.
As much as I would like to see them have to go to Las Vegas and win $10 million and bring it back to the city, because you know they would share.
Of course.
Okay.
Okay.
So that is covered, is what you're telling us.
Yes,
I believe that and dues are also in
Yes.
that line item.
dues,
But do you want to leave that
subscription.
open-ended is what I'm asking.
Yeah, you already have a.
I believe that we can leave this open-ended because it is covered
It's in the budget.
in the budget.
He can't spend any
He
more than what
can't
he's
spend,
willing
he
to.
can't go to Reno unless we budget him to go to Reno.
Okay,
And I will
on the next
approve it.
page it says that.
Okay, so we're good?
The manager will include annually in the budget for adoption.
Vice President Head.
Yes, that was what I was reading. He's gonna have to annually budget what?
You're ahead of me.
We won't
I haven't
do.
turned the page yet.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, moving ahead.
4-2's good. 4-3's good.
4-3, professional continuing education. I think this is a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Performance evaluation processes. County, everybody can read this. I don't need to spend the time reading this. The annual performance reviews shall be in accordance with, a council shall provide the manager a reasonable, adequate opportunity to discuss and respond to the manager's evaluation. And this is where the mayor and Councilor Jones is suggesting putting
Paragraph on the
Any salary increases by resolution only.
And you don't need this first evaluation, second evaluation stuff in there either.
No,
No.
just an annual performance review and
The annual
evaluation.
performance and evaluation,
And the paragraph about the resolution.
which to me is like,
What's Exhibit A?
I don't know.
well, if we don't know what it is, we're gonna get rid of it.
That was the survey, the evaluation that we were to use.
Is that the evaluation that's attached to the?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the back of the thing, there's a, and,
Scratch it up.
okay,
Unless you
we're all
want-
good with this?
Yeah, because we might change it.
Yep.
Continue.
Yep.
Go.
We're gonna take out all that Exhibit A stuff there?
Yes, we are. Separation and termination. The agreement shall separate, terminate, resignation of the mayor, effective date signed by them, retirement of the manager, sorry, not the mayor.
I'm sorry,
Resignation of the manager, retirement of the manager, death of the manager, and upon any of the things listed in
We need-
6.1.
We need to add non-renewal. If we've decided it's not open-ended anymore, we need to add it.
I agree. Contract,
Do we need to put death of the manager in there? That sounds.
no, if he dies, he can keep working.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
some of the work will look like it, too.
That's
We're not paying it after it's done.
Contract.
But we do need to add.
That's kind of really stupid.
Let's take it out.
I agree.
Let's take it
I
out.
agree. The death of the manager
But
can
he's
go
gotta
away.
give us 30 days notice
Yes,
before he
yes.
dies.
He's got to die of COVID, and he's got to tell us in advance.
That's crazy.
So we're getting rid of that
Yeah, and put in the non-renewal of contract.
and put in the non-renewal. 6.2, unilateral severance. And this is one of those that just is the 4-to-1. And I say, and some others may not believe it, I say this unilateral severance by the council, 4-to-1 termination by the council, shall qualify to receive a severance package in accordance to paragraph 6.3, which is all down here outlined. I think it's reasonable. Anybody object to this?
I disagree.
I mean,
Okay.
I do too. Yeah.
Okay, tell me what you
3-2.
object to.
I'd rather have 3-2.
3-2. Because if something horrible happens, we don't want to have to wait 4 years to non-renew the contract.
Well, if it's something horrible, we have in this previous council voted 4-to-1.
Yeah, but sometimes we didn't always have 4. We had 3.
We prayed for 4.
And I'm talking multiple city managers, I can remember that being the case.
Absolutely,
We
I
had-
can too.
I can
Okay.
think of at least 3.
Well, I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
I
think of
really
at least
don't.
3.
I don't have any problem with it.
My concern is if we are down a council member and we only have 4 sitting here and we've got it spelled out 4-to-1, it's just, to me, should say a majority of the council.
Majority, which is how all the other resolutions are done
There you
within the
go.
council.
Majority. Either majority or 3-2, I don't care which.
But in the event we only have 4.
See, I'm
Yeah,
trying,
4 you're.
I'm trying to give a little bit here, Mr. Hyatt. They won't let me.
Yes, the council.
Okay, so we're changing the termination from 4-to-1 to a majority.
Majority of the council. That'll have to change on the top of the next page too.
Mr. Goodman, Ms.
I'm listening, Mr. Copeland.
One section of the council is saying a majority, and the other is saying majority of the council. The majority is the majority of the quorum that appears at the meeting.
Correct.
Majority of the council is where you wait until all five are present. Which would you like?
Where is that you're talking about?
On the hearing.
Oh, okay.
People are saying the majority, like all other resolutions, there could be 3 people show up and be 2 to 1 vote. The majority of the council is the majority of when all 5 of you are here.
So we need to say
Mr. Head has
majority of
also
the
pointed out-
quorum.
Mr. Head has also pointed out that you may be down a council member.
Exactly, so we need a quorum,
So do you want a majority of a
Or
quorum?
simply a quorum?
or the majority of the council members present. Yeah, that's what a quorum.
Is that what you're asking, Mr. Copeland?
I'm asking you, which do you want? I'm giving you
Okay.
several examples. A majority of all current council members, where you have to have everybody at a meeting, or
In my mind, it was really clear, we're talking about the majority of those that are in attendance at the meeting.
So a majority of the council members present.
Present, that's a quorum.
I know, but we need to write it that way.
Well, I wrote it down as a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it could be.
Because you're right,
It
there
could
are,
be interpreted
there's
either
many
way.
times when counselors are gone to Reno, Nevada, or wherever.
We're picking on Reno tonight.
I am.
Yes.
Okay, so we're changing that from 4 to 1 to a quorum.
And the next, top of the next page also.
Give me specifics.
The very-
Top of the next
The
page.
very first line.
7.2?
No, the very,
No, here.
6.2 at the very top of the line.
Where it says.
You must have turned the page already,
I did. Yeah.
Right there.
where it says 4 to 1 again, needs to be changed to
Yes.
a majority
Yes.
vote of the council present.
What about the severance amount and calculation?
I don't know, we need to read that.
Well, I went through this severance amount when Mr. Lippman resigned. And it's not that terrible. It's, if he's here for 30 days, 6 months to 30 days, he gets 20 work days.
I was okay with it as written. It's been a whole lot worse before.
Yeah.
We
It
paid
got-
people
it actually
6
has
months.
a total maximum of 100 days.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, I'd leave it alone.
yeah, I'm okay with it.
everybody good with leaving it alone?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, binding effect. This is Mr. Coberlin's area of expertise.
The
I
waiver,
don't see there's anything in it we need to change. Severability clause, 7.3 is pretty straightforward. 7.4 is conflicts. It's understanding that if there are conflicts, the rest of it stays. Controlling law. And then we don't need to get into the performance evaluation of the city manager because we have quit using this thing
so who's
sometime back.
who's got this on a, who's got this?
I've made notes.
But who's got this document?
Between Brooke and Fred.
HR
Yeah,
has
and
it.
Brooke, you emailed this document to us all, right?
I know, but somebody has it so they can actually,
An editable version.
some of these need to be edited before you get, before you.
Yeah, well, that ain't me.
Well, that's why I'm
That's
asking
the mayor and
who's
Brooke.
got it.
If you do this, is you're gonna have to do the contract, it's gonna have to go to legal, he's gonna have to approve it with the changes or whatever. Why don't we just do the list of the changes that we have discussed right here, and then we can start the negotiation?
I mean, you don't wanna give him this though.
No.
No.
So I'm just saying, even if you can change them to say something,
It is gonna have to go up there,
Not
and
if
you're
Brooks
gonna
got
have a
it.
delay.
not if Brooks got it. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, after Brooke gets it, it's gotta go to Fred.
Fred. I know, but you don't think he's gonna want something in his hand when you're negotiating with him?
Well, we can hit the highlights on here and ask him basically, is there anything,
You can hit the highlights as long as you don't wanna show it to him.
okay, do whatever you wanna do.
Okay, I would suggest that what we need to do, what you need to do.
I'm not even making a suggestion, I'm just
Okay,
asking a
okay.
question.
What we need to do is to connect with Mr. Hyatt and say that you are the candidate and we are in the process of formalizing a contract.
You can't formalize it until you negotiate it.
We're in the
That's not
process
even what I'm
that
asking.
tells the man he's got the job.
You go through the list.
If he wants
and you
If he
go
wants it,
legal.
and we still have to, he's the city manager, he knows you can't just say, okay, we're gonna do this. He knows that you have to go through legal and all the channels, so we don't need to get all of this to tell the man that he is the final choice of this council at this time.
No, you don't need it to be,
Okay.
he's the final choice.
That's all we're saying. I think that's all.
But you probably need to have something to put in his hand when you start negotiating with him.
When we start negotiating.
And what's it gonna be if you don't do something?
Well, that doesn't mean we can't inform him.
I know, but he's gonna wanna see something.
Well, of course he is.
I think we should get a copy of whatever it is we're gonna call an agreement.
You gotta remember, our interim city manager has said he is very comfortable being here until December, January of next year. He is good with it, pardon, sir? Negative. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we go to Mr. Hyatt with the suggestions, with our ideas, the list of what we're trying to do. And then we negotiate with him, and then we go to legal.
Okay. I don't know.
And write up the real contract before you.
If you know that you're gonna do a 4-year expiration subject to renewal and not an indefinite term, you can change that before you go there. You can leave a blank where the date is. The next thing is, you can put a blank where the salary is. The next thing is take out this paragraph so he won't think he wants it. I mean, and then you could, just a very few little tweaks, and you have something to hand him to look at when you start doing a negotiation. And that wouldn't necessarily need to go to legal before you gave it to him, because then you could.
I am not sending a man a contract before legal looks at it.
I-
Someone else wants to do it, that's
It's the
fine.
same
I'm not
contract you
doing it.
got in your hand. You're just making those few
I'm
little
not
tweaks.
doing it, not
All
going
right,
to
then
send a
you do
contract
it.
before.
Then
he
go
looks
up there
at
with
it.
nothing to give him. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I have a couple. Who has the contract that can be edited?
That's what I said.
Do you have it? How long would it take to get the changes that we discussed tonight put into that? Obviously, there's still negotiation to be had. None of
Yes.
this is set in stone. So, to me, I would think that we would inform him, even if it's by a conference call with the two of you tomorrow, whenever it is, to say, you've been selected, we'd like to negotiate terms with you. And at that point, if you want to say, here's what we're thinking, or whatever, or we can forward you a document for your review within the coming days or whatever, we have to get this started quickly before he finds something else. But typically, if you're gonna have a contract, you can discuss those terms. And I agree, you either need to leave them blank, or if you send him your bottom numbers on every one of those, it's gonna ask for him to, basically make corrections that he feels necessary and come back. But I think it needs to start quick. I don't think it necessarily needs a trip. I feel personally like you could make a call, the two of you could get in the office and call him and inform him and say, we're trying to come to terms with a contract, and then, I don't care how you do it. I know what they're saying on both sides of it. That's what we're trying to let you guys decide.
Mr.
Make a point. Are we gonna continue to call this an agreement, or are we gonna call it a contract? Because I think it makes a difference, and I believe Mr. Cobley will tell us that there's a difference in an agreement and a contract.
Good question.
So which do we want it to be?
They put you on the floor, Mr. Cobley.
Both parties have agreed to terms and conditions, and there's consideration for price and benefits, and they've signed it. It can be an agreement or a contract.
Yeah.
The agreement is, languages from the International City and County Managers Association, I believe.
It's one of those interchangeable words, like corporation and incorporated.
Okay.
You good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like we could easily say, Hyatt, we'd love to offer you the job, negotiating the terms, here's the starting salary, here's, you know, a few basics, and, you know, if you agree to that, then we'll provide you with the contract, or the agreement.
Okay, so is the council willing to give the mayor and myself the authority to do this? We can cut this meeting
Yes.
right down the size.
I think
of
we
the council
already
willing.
said that we were, but I still think you need a document to put in front of him.
Well, that's what you think, but I wanna know, are you giving us authority?
Yes.
Yes.
Go for it.
Yes.
You need to give
Okay.
a document?
No, to go negotiate with Mr. Hyatt. That is what we've been talking about.
Yes, sir, but I'm still thinking he's gonna want a piece of paper and.
Well, he might, but we have to, someone has to have the authority to do this. And the mayor and I will get together, we'll decide if we need to do that, or if we can just call him and say,
I
we're
want you to,
working
I
on
want
it.
you to call him,
Well, that's fine.
but I want you to have a document when you go to meet with
Well,
him.
I may not have a document. Do you want to rescind your authority?
No, but I think it's a mistake not to
Well,
have this
I
information in your
appreciate
hand.
the fact that you think it's a mistake.
No,
So
not
does-
really.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I don't
Just
think
because
so.
I don't agree with you doesn't mean I don't accept your concern.
No, you said you appreciate it, now you don't appreciate it.
Okay.
It was a choice of words.
Okay. So we have the majority of the council has given the mayor and me authority under the conditions that we have outlined here to approach Mr. Hyatt. Your Honor, I have a meeting tomorrow, and I will look at him in just a moment, and then you let me know outside of that meeting that I may or may not have with TV 20. I'm at your disposal. Yes, sir.
Brooke, can you give us, send a summary to everyone to make sure that the high points have been discussed, and that's what we're going to discuss with Mr. Hyatt?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
If you want to leave me any of your notes, so I can make a copy of them, so we're all in agreement, I will make sure they are all put in there.
Okay. You send them to us as quickly as you can tomorrow,
Absolutely.
and then we will.
After he gets off TV?
A whole lot less time than I'll
May
be,
not.
I'm sure.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. And, we'll get together and call him and set it up.
Okay. I think we can have, yes, sir. I think we can have a very clear general discussion with him before we give all the terms of the contract, but the mayor and I will discuss it and determine what we feel is the best way to go about it. Okay, item number 6, public participation. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the council at this time? Aaron, is there anybody who would like to address the council?
Anybody in the GoToMeeting would like to speak up, please unmute your mic and speak up. Nothing heard.
Okay. Item 7, announcements. Mr. Ross, do you have any announcements?
No, sir, I
Vice
do not.
President Head.
Yeah, I think I got mold growing on my air vent here.
Yes.
Oh, I should say so.
All over it.
Oh, my gracious.
Oh, my word.
I didn't even notice it till you said so.
You aware of this?
I had a headache for the last hour, but I didn't.
The mold spores all over the,
All of them. Those are those too.
say it again, I can't hear you.
But I'm aware that they are filthy after this meeting.
Did we make them filthy? That came out kind of funny there. That's what I'm saying, that's kind of funny.
The other item I had is that, I want to clarify something. We heard in public participation about the old Winn-Dixie property and the request for that. It's going to be on the agenda at the next meeting. My understanding, we have a couple other requests for discussion on properties that are in foreclosure process right now. And I know we're not going to have a workshop, but I think the whole discussion needs to be on the agenda for the next meeting, not just that specific property.
We do have at least 2 that I'm aware of, because I went to the meeting.
So I'd like to see it on the agenda for the next meeting,
All the properties that
just the process.
Legal would like to make a comment.
I'm aware of the request that's coming, or was made tonight, and it's gonna be before you, and there are 2 others that have code enforcement liens on them, 2 other parcels I simply want to remind you that we can do them whenever you want to, you can do whatever you want to with the liens at whatever time you want. But if we go and we file foreclosures, we have to pay the clerk court filing fees. And that's going to create two things if you start forgiving liens sporadically without process. You're going to pay filing fees, you're going to pay legal fees, and then you're going to have someone come before you, and then you have wasted the legal fees and the legal costs. Also, if you don't do them in batches, then you're paying your legal counsel to attend court hearings sporadically instead of in batches.
Well, I didn't know you had to go.
You have to
Actually go, huh?
whether you're on the computer or not, you still are attending court.
Right.
Certainly doesn't take long. But if you're appearing, whether you're appearing by phone, video, or in person every week, when you could be appearing once a month because you filed them in batches,
right,
then you will be saving the taxpayers more money because it's more efficient. So I say that, I mentioned those two things to let you know that I asked the staff to contact the other two, to ask them to please make their prayers for relief known as soon as possible, so that you aren't paying filing fees and legal fees and then hearing requests. So, this goes back to what Mr. Head was saying, that we do at some point need a workshop so that you can just tell the staff, administration, how to address these requests.
So you know of 3 that have been solved?
Today of a third.
Of another one?
The good news is that somehow the word's getting out.
Yeah.
The bad news is that you don't really have a system.
May I ask, and I don't know, I guess it would be Ms. Gorman, and she's not here any longer, if Ms. Gorman can give us the cost that we have spent on each of those 3 properties, so we will know what we don't need to forgive.
I think she can do that.
Yeah.
She has done that in the past.
The
so
legal
I'm
fees,
comfortable
the
saying
filing
she can do
fees,
that.
and what's the third thing? Legal fees and filing fees,
Yeah.
okay. Court costs, yeah. If you can ask her to give us on those 3 that she's aware of, so we'll know.
Okay. I hope so. Your Honor.
I do have an announcement. This is something I have been thinking about here for the last 2.5 months, especially when I found out when school was going to start. I have decided that we're not going to have student of the month. We're going to delay that because of the pandemic until hopefully, prayerfully, after the first of the year, we can start it up again. But I just cannot see us starting that when we have 4 or 5 student of the month and we have 5 or 10 people or whatever per student to come in here. That would just be a little bit too much. So I apologize out there to everybody, but I'd rather have everybody be safe. That's it.
Chief Brevard?
Yes, sir, I'm good.
CJ?
Yeah, one last thing that didn't do during the staff and board updates, we do have Comfort Temp coming in Thursday to do the evaluation of the entire AC system throughout City Hall, so we will address this issue as well. These are exhausts, so they're blowing in, so they shouldn't be that filthy.
There's no reason, there's only one reason that there can be this kind of spores on them, and that is there's a water intrusion.
That is
There's
correct.
no other way can this happen.
And
Yeah,
it's
we are
probably
going-
in the ducts too.
Yes, we are going through this with them step by step, so that we can, get moving on with the warranty period.
Yeah, once you get to this point, you have to do a complete evaluation of the duct. The entire duct system may have to be
Yeah,
replaced.
exactly.
Yes.
Insulation even.
And Vice President Head will be sending them a medical bill.
Perfect.
Got a headache.
I've had one for about 3 months.
Now you know why. I'm sorry.
Mr. Coberlin?
Not like all the problems. Just coincidental, I showed up.
City Manager Stroh?
Interim city manager, and I was kind of hoping they'd move forward, Mr. Hines, by tomorrow.
Not happening.
Get this resolved. A couple things. I sent each of you a special events ordinance I'd like for y'all to review. and, maybe have some conversation. I think it's something that's well overdue
When did you send it?
today.
No wonder, okay.
It's just, I think we're overdue and just trying to get ahead of the game.
Question, don't we have one already?
Not that detailed now. It's,
Okay, we have a special event.
We have a special event application.
But it's not an ordinance.
But this one, if you read the ordinance,
Yeah.
it gets into cleanup,
Right.
authorization, and what happens is that, it will deal with, making sure, the services that are required for an event is paid for by the person putting on the event, and if there's no, staffing plan that's determined and or the sponsor doesn't come up with the requested staff, and there's no event.
And it might be worth trying to look at a special event package itself.
Right, and maybe combine the two together.
We started going over this at one time at parade.
But it got stopped about, once we worked out the parade, and that's as far as we went.
Yeah, 'cause we were in a parade crisis at the time.
Correct. And it never got revisited.
And we dropped the ball.
And there's some things that overall, like park rules, for instance, we talked about it, according to the existing rules, regulations, city park, you can't cook in a park. So that means that every time we have a Rotary Easter egg hunt, or a car show,
People
or
cook
you do
in there
hot
all the
dogs,
time.
correct, you can't even use that for,
Birthday parties.
Birthday parties, you can't use it for peanut festivals. So we need to tweak it, we never followed through with it. The other thing is reminded, next Tuesday, the 15th, is our first budget hearing at 501. And the following day, September 16th, I will be, at the Moffett Center with my wife, and so I will be out of pocket, but CJ will be here in my stead. And that's it.
Councilmember Robinson,
I have nothing.
Councilmember Jones.
I was just surprised not to see Waste Pro on the agenda.
They weren't.
They had to come down.
Are they supposed to come back?
Last I remember, the
I can't
council
remember
asked
everything.
them to, instead of us making a contract, ask them to present us with a contract. And, if we'd been in the meeting for 4.5 hours at that time, I didn't care.
They
They
can't.
asked for our suggestions and we all emailed suggestions.
We did?
But we are on a month-to-month until that contract is signed. At this point, we do not have a contract.
Well, we have a month to month, but
Yes.
I didn't realize that's what it was. Because they came back with a number.
They did, but not a contract.
A lot of stuff that was eliminated from the contract, like
Right.
Yeah, none of those are addressed.
But I thought we were gonna talk about them here.
Not tonight.
What
They're not on the
we
agenda.
agreed
Well, I
on was
know that, that's why I'm asking, why aren't they?
I can't answer it. Because nobody put them
When
on.
they left, what we said was we were gonna send them the old contract, and they were gonna look at it. But we haven't.
And I assumed that that was done.
I am assuming that it was, I don't know.
the old contract, the 2012 contract, the 2017 contract was sent there with recommendations of items from the 2012 be added, that was deleted from the 2017 contract, that it be added to a new contract. They were gonna look at that, and they were gonna apply those from the 2012, which they said that they were about 95% sure that would not be a problem. Then they were going to present us with another contract, and they have not gotten back to us with a contract.
Did they
That's it.
prepare the first I remember all that.
I don't know.
But who prepared the first contract?
In 2012 or 2017?
Either one, either one.
In 2016, City Manager Lippman.
I thought we presented the contract every time.
Well, I can't tell you in 2000.
Well, it doesn't matter who presented it, the contract was signed on 2012, 2017, but they said
So if
they
we wanted
would,
it, all I'm saying, Jerry, is if we wanted it changed, we should change it and send it to them.
I asked that question in the meeting,
Yeah.
and Dana said, I can make the changes to the contract and give you something that you want to present.
So she has
She was
a copy of it to do that with?
Yes.
A Word?
She
I know
has
she has
provided.
a copy, but would she have to
I don't know.
type the whole thing? If we've got it in a Word.
All I can tell you is,
I do not know, I'm not.
she
she
said she
sent
could
both
do it.
contracts, and I had written out the changes that would
I remember that, Jerry, I don't dispute that, I just wonder why it wasn't on the agenda, why we haven't done something.
Because they haven't brought anything back.
It wasn't my understanding they were supposed to.
City Manager Strode, would you please try to get with Waste Pro and find out what the status of the contract with Waste Pro is going to be before the next meeting? And if it is something that we need to deal with, let's deal with it. This meeting is adjourned. Yes, sir. Oh, Jerry. Just one.
Is that from?